Chapter 121. Base C1. After the base chief discussed with everyone, he agreed to Dr. Chen restarting the Super X virus enhancer project. Previously, they gave up on this project because they couldn't directly use living humans for experiments. If they couldn't collect more data, they couldn't improve the virus enhancer. But now, in order to save his daughter, Yang Kong volunteered to inject the Super X virus enhancer. They took advantage of the situation and agreed. Although they didn't think that Yang Kang's daughter was still alive. But this way, at least they could collect some data. The previous data and information of this project had been sealed. There were still a few finished Super X virus enhancers stored in the cold storage. Now, they just needed to find them and make some preparations before the injection. A day later, this enhancer had been injected into Yang Kang's body. A few hours later, Yang Kang's body underwent drastic changes. The injuries on his body, under the improvement of the virus, had completely recovered. His height had also reached 3 meters. Both his arms could transform into genetic weapons. Dual genetic weapons. According to the physical test data, the current him, whether it was strength or speed, was actually equivalent to a level 10 hunter. Even a slightly more daring prediction would say that his combat power had far surpassed a level 10 hunter. Of course, this was only when he still had his own consciousness. Not long after, he would become a level 10 artificial zombie with super strength. Of course, the laboratory held the control of the virus. If he wanted to attack humans in the future, the laboratory could use a tranquilizer gun to inject the Super X virus inhibitor into him. First make him lose his ability to move, then kill him. At this time, looking at Yang Kang's tall figure walking out of the laboratory, everyone couldn't help but be moved. For his daughter, he was willing to become a zombie. A father's love was like a mountain. In the past, they only heard about it, but never really felt it. This time, they really felt the weight of these 4 words. When Yang Kong walked forward, Dr. Chen couldn't help but follow a few steps. He shouted, "Yang Kong." Yang Kong turned around and looked at Dr. Chen. His eyes flashed. "Dr. Chen, what I owe you in this life, I will pay you back in my next life." Then, he turned around abruptly and leaped more than 300 meters. A moment later, he came under the city wall. With a light jump, he jumped over the city wall. He quickly ran into the wilderness. In Base C2. After midnight, Immerse woke up naturally. The voice in his mind said, "System, double the reward of Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Elixir." The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face designated reward, Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Liquid. Requires 10,000 evolution points. Doubling requires 100,000 evolution points. Signing in this time requires a total of 110,000 evolution points. Do you want to sign in? Immerse, Motherf ****. The amount of evolution points required for the designated reward and the doubled reward had increased to 10 times the previous amount. Did it have to be so dark? But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. The effect of the Dragon Bloodline Modification Elixir was more than 10 times stronger than before. It was probably dozens or even hundreds of times more powerful. Since the cost of signing in would be 10 times more than before, he would still be profiting from it. Thinking of this, he replied in his mind, "Confirm sign-in." Sign-in successful. Sign-in reward, 10 drops of Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Liquid. The reason why Immerse did not choose to strengthen the Dragon Will first was because it was too slow to strengthen. Moreover, with the current Dragon Will, he could walk unhindered in the entire Huaxia, but at least no human or zombie could kill him. It was enough for the time being. Therefore, he planned to increase his body's strength to level 10 before strengthening the Dragon Will. He took out a bottle of modification liquid from the system space and drank it. After a while, his body began to heat up. Now that he drank the modification liquid, it did not take 6 hours like the first time. In just 5 minutes, he had completely digested this drop of modification liquid. Then he began to drink the second drop. In less than an hour, all 10 drops of modification liquid were consumed. He could feel that his body was full of energy. Under the investigation of his telekinesis, he found that the strength of his cells had increased by a lot. With this speed, he estimated that he would be able to become a level 2 great hunter in at most 10 days. At the same time, the people in the base were in despair and panic. All the hunters and psychokinesis in the base were captured. Even the leader of the base was captured. And that super mutated zombie was so powerful that it made people despair. It could attack the base again at any time. The people spent 2 full days in extreme fear and despair. However, on the 3rd day, exciting news came. The hunters and psychokinesis who were captured had returned. Just like how they didn't expect the 30 ordinary humans to come back alive, no one expected the hunters and psychics to come back alive after being captured by the super mutated zombies. A group of hunters hurriedly welcomed the hunters and psychokinesis into the base. While ordering people to bring them water and food, he also inquired about how they managed to escape. The hunters and psychokinesis looked at each other. In their minds, they recalled the human wearing blood-red armor and a dragon head helmet. However, they knew that even if they said it, these people would not believe them. Even now, they could not believe that there was such a strong human. The super mutated zombie that they could not resist was smashed to death by the human's telekinesis. The entire huge stadium was blown away by the human's telekinesis. This sounded like complete nonsense. In the end, the leader of the base spoke. It was a mysterious powerhouse who saved us, and on the night of the heavy rain, he should be the one who killed all the strong mutated zombies. Also, he was the one who slaughtered more than 2 million zombies in the blood-red city and saved the 30 people. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. In that case, the mysterious powerhouse was much stronger than the hunters and psychokinesis. Not to mention other things, he slaughtered more than 2 million zombies in just over an hour. Was there any other human in the world who could do that? A hunter suddenly thought of something and asked. "Leader, you mean, the mysterious powerhouse is in our base and has been secretly protecting us?" The leader nodded. Based on his intuition, the mysterious expert didn't seem to be protecting the base or everyone on purpose. He was willing to give everyone some hope when they were in despair. Under such circumstances, the mysterious powerhouse was the best hope. I see. It's all thanks to the mysterious powerhouse. It seems that I have to go to the temple and burn some incense for the mysterious powerhouse. What incense? The mysterious powerhouse is not dead. It's better to set up a longevity tablet. In the following day, the news of the mysterious powerhouse spread throughout the base. This made the people who were in despair begin to cheer up. Moreover, someone actually went to the temple and set up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse. Immerse woke up early in the morning and wandered around the base. Walking around early in the morning every day, he felt refreshed. Along the way, he saw people passing by from time to time, and they were all going in the same direction. Immerse felt strange. He asked an old man who passed by. "Sir, what are you doing?" The old man replied. "Going to the temple to set up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse." Chapter 122. Go and set up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse and pray for him. Pray that God will bless him for a lifetime of good health. The old man said. Immerse couldn't help but laugh. This was interesting. He immediately said, "I'll go and take a look." He already knew that there was a small temple in Base C2 called Liaoyuan Temple. He once went there to sign in. In the end, he only signed a book called I Jing Jing. Don't get me wrong. This was not a martial art that could cleanse one's meridians and marrow like in wuxia novels. It was just an obscure scripture that was hard to understand. So Immerse never went there again. When Immerse arrived at the entrance of Liaoyuan Temple, he saw that there were already more than 30 people lined up. These people were almost all talking about the mysterious powerhouse. The mysterious powerhouse is even stronger than the super mutated zombies. He's far stronger than a level 10 hunter. Yeah. Within an hour, he wiped out 2 million zombies in the blood-red city. He's not human. He's an animal. Damn, you don't want to live anymore? Sorry. I'm not scolding him. It's just an exaggeration. The man quickly put his hands together and bowed in all four directions. Sorry. Immerse, on the other hand, found it funny. These people were already in despair, as if the end of the world was about to befall them. In the end, the mysterious powerhouse appeared and brought them hope. It was not strange that they were now setting up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse. But when he scanned it with his telekinesis and saw the name written on the longevity tablet, he was a little speechless. There were 4 words written on the tablet: Mysterious Powerhouse. It was a little too nonsensical. But thinking about it, these people didn't know what the mysterious powerhouse was called. Immerse followed the crowd and slowly entered the small temple. There were 2 monks in the temple. One had a white beard and looked to be in his 60s or 70s. The other was only in his 20s. When everyone saw the old monk, they all called him master. The old monk put his hands together and bowed to everyone one by one. Immerse watched for a while and felt that it was boring, so he planned to leave. But when he turned around, he suddenly thought of something. I seem to have heard that this old monk had stayed in your province for a long time. His heart stirred, and he immediately dismissed the idea of leaving. When most of the people had left, he came to the old monk. The old monk sized up Immerse from head to toe and said, "Benefactor, your tools are extraordinary. You are no ordinary person." Immerse was a little surprised. Could it be that this old monk really knew how to read fortunes? Or face reading? He shrugged and said, "I'm just a zombie keeper." The old monk shook his head. Liu Bei used to sell woven mats and Jiang Sheng used to fish. It wasn't because of their status, but because of their manners. I see that benefactor is calm and composed. Every movement of yours is natural. He's definitely not immortal. Immerse chuckled. Dupe. He had never believed in fortune-telling or physiognomy. However, the way the old monk spoke made him sound like a knowledgeable swindler. Immerse continued to ask, "Master, I heard that you used to live in your province?" The old monk nodded. "I was the abbot of Qingzhen Temple in Fan's Pure Mountain in your province for 15 years. Immerse had heard of Fan's Pure Mountain. It was a famous Buddhist mountain. At the top of the mountain, above the sea of clouds, there were 2 floating temples. The 2 temples were connected by a bridge. To get to the 2 floating temples, one had to go through the 10,000 steps ladder. However, he was not concerned about that at this moment. He said again, "Master, you should know the terrain of your province very well." The old monk replied with a smile, "Although I rarely go out, I have read a lot of books. I know the terrain of your province very well." Immerse nodded. He took out the map and asked, "Master, I accidentally got a map. Can you take a look at this place?" This was a map obtained from the system. No one else knew what it was for. Naturally, there was no need to worry about someone snatching it. Even if they did snatch it, they wouldn't be able to walk so far in the wilderness to find the dragon ruins. The old monk took the map and looked at it carefully for a moment. He said, "The dragon ruins should be the cave where the legendary dragon lived." "It's all nonsense." Immerse nodded. "I know it's just for fun. I'm just curious about where these 2 places are." The old monk looked at it carefully a few more times and said, "I've never been to the one in the new province, so I don't know. But the one in your province should be near Fan's Pure Mountain." At this point, the old monk said with a smile, "I remember a legend about the dragon that I heard when I was the abbot of Fan's Pure Mountain." Immerse was interested when he heard that. The old monk asked the young monk not far away to pour a glass of water for Immerse. He reached out and asked Immerse to sit down. He also sat on the chair next to him and said, "You should know that there are 2 peaks at the top of Fan's Pure Mountain that reach into the sky." Immerse nodded. "One is Old Golden Peak, and the other is Red Cloud Golden Peak." The old monk looked up at the blue sky outside the door as if he was recalling the past. Legend has it that in ancient times, Fan's Pure Mountain was not called Fan's Pure Mountain, but Taming Dragon Mountain. In ancient times, there was a plague dragon that wreaked havoc in the world, and the people had no way to make a living. A powerful man suppressed the plague dragon with a mountain, and this mountain was called Taming Dragon Mountain. A dragon-suppressing nail was inserted into the dragon's head and heart. These were the two golden peaks later. It is said that in the Ming dynasty, the plague dragon seemed to be trying to escape and kept struggling. The mountain shook. Emperor Wanli ordered people to build 4 royal temples on the mountain to suppress the plague dragon. Mo Shi's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. He asked, "Master, is the plague dragon you're talking about a Western dragon or a Huaxia dragon?" The old monk was stunned by this question. Then he laughed. He shook his head and said, "It's just a legend. Don't take it seriously." Mo Shi also laughed. "I've been obsessed with these legends since I was a child. Master, please don't laugh at me." The old monk also joked. The Huaxia dragon is a kind dragon that creates clouds and brings rain to the common people. The Western dragon is greedy for pleasure, plundering gold and silver, and harming thousands of people. I think this should be a Western evil dragon. Mo Shi nodded in agreement. "Master, you're right." After chatting for a while, Mo Shi put away the map. He said goodbye to the 2 monks and left leisurely. The 2 monks walked him to the door and watched Mo Shi's back as he left. The little monk said, "Master, this guy is idling around. Why do you care about him?" The old monk said, "In this doomsday, everyone is afraid. They can't sleep peacefully and can't wake up peacefully. It's rare to see someone as calm and carefree as him." The little monk curled his lips and said, "He's just a pretentious prick." The old monk glanced at the little monk and said, "Are you talking about me or him?" The little monk hurriedly shook his head. "Master, how dare I talk about you? Of course I'm talking about him." The old monk didn't pay attention to the little monk anymore. He watched Mo Shi's back until he turned the corner in front of him. Then, he withdrew his gaze. He chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha. He turned around and entered the small temple. The little monk curled his lips and whispered, "He's kind." He also followed in. Chapter 123. Mo Shi returned to his residence and thought to himself. For the time being, he couldn't go to the dragon ruins in Brahma's Pure Mountain. He learned from the previous consciousness of the brood mother that the strongest zombie in Huaxia, the level 3 super mutant zombie, was near Brahma's Pure Mountain. Therefore, he planned to sign in for a while and raise his strength to a level 3 or even level 4 great hunter. When he could completely dominate the entire Huaxia, he would go to Brahma's Pure Mountain to take a look. In the next few days, he continued to sign in every day. When he was free, he strolled around the base. He thought that after killing the super mutant zombie, a large number of zombies around it, and destroying the brood mother, he could sign in peacefully for a while. He didn't expect that trouble would still come to him. On this day, the helicopter brought back a laboratory researcher from base C3. This made the base leader very happy. They were looking for people in various bases to build a laboratory. However, almost no base was willing to help them these days. He had no choice but to send some people to bring some supplies to other bases in exchange for a researcher. This was a woman who wasn't very beautiful but had a very good smell. What was the smell? The smell of body odor. Even if it was painful, he could still smell the body odor on her through thick clothes. However, the base was very welcoming of her arrival. Although the super mutant zombie almost destroyed the entire base last time. This greatly increased the difficulty of building a laboratory. However, after seeing that other bases were able to quickly strengthen hunters and psychokinesis because of their laboratories, they also made up their minds to overcome any difficulties and build a laboratory. Now that they could borrow a researcher from other bases, they were naturally very excited. This morning, Mo Shi stood on the roof of the apartment building and looked around the base with the blood demon's eyes. This was a habit he had developed after coming to base C2. There was basically no corpse aura around the base. After destroying the brood mother, the corpse aura around the entire base seemed to have decreased a lot. However, at this moment, his blood demon's eyes suddenly focused. Because he saw that in the base, in addition to the corpse farm, there was a new corpse aura. This corpse aura was more than 1,000 times stronger than the corpse aura of the more than 20 zombies in the corpse farm. Looking at this corpse aura, it was very likely to be a super mutant zombie. Immerse's heart trembled slightly as he thought of a possibility. He immediately went downstairs and headed to the research site where the corpse aura was. Due to the arrival of the female researcher, the base quickly started to build a laboratory. Xiao Di and the female researcher were busy at the construction site. When no one was paying attention, Immerse swept his blood demon eyes over. He found that the huge corpse energy that was comparable to that of a super mutant zombie was actually emitted from the female researcher. At the same time, the attributes of the female researcher appeared in his mind. Species, zombie, level 2 super mutant zombie, level 10 psychokinesis, PFFF. Immerse almost spurted out a mouthful of blood. This woman was actually a zombie. No wonder she had such a strong body odor. She had deliberately made it up to cover up the corpse odor on her body. As for the fact that this woman was a level 2 mutant zombie, he was not surprised at all. After all, judging from the corpse energy, this woman was definitely a super mutant zombie. What he didn't expect was that this woman actually had psychokinesis. This was the first time he knew that there was psychokinesis among zombies. But he understood after thinking about it. Psychokinesis had a strong consciousness. Even after turning into zombies, their consciousness wouldn't be weakened. So after being infected with psychokinesis, it was very likely that they would become psychokinesis zombies. Psychokinesis was almost always under heavy protection. Psychokinesis was rarely infected, so it was his first time seeing a psychokinesis zombie. But there was one thing that surprised him. This zombie turned out to be a level 10 psychokinesis. One had to know that the strongest human psychic was only level 6. Immerse did not expose this female zombie. He was a little curious. This super mutant zombie, pretending to be a human, mixed in with the crowd, what was her purpose? Since he had nothing to do, he wanted to see how she would perform. 11:00 at night. Immerse was lying in bed, waiting for the arrival of 12:00. At this moment, a figure quietly came to his door. This figure was none other than the female researcher. Her level 10 telekinesis probed into Immerse's room. She saw Immerse sleeping in the room. Her right hand turned into a half-meter-long claw. She scratched the door of the room. The 1 centimeter thick steel plate on the door was easily sliced open like paper, leaving a huge crack in it. The female researcher entered the room and found the bedroom. She saw Immerse lying on the bed, snoring softly. A cold murderous intent flashed in her eyes. Then her right claw turned into 2 sanguisurincus. One pierced Immerse's head, the other pierced Immerse's heart. Puff puff, with 2 soft sounds, Immerse's head and heart were easily pierced. A trace of excitement flashed in the female researcher's eyes. The tentacles continued to drill in and out of Immerse's body. Like 2 violent blood snakes, they drilled dozens of holes in Immerse's body. She didn't stop until she was sure that Immerse couldn't be more dead. She let out a low roar from her throat. The next moment, she turned around and fled out of the door. However, just as she reached the door, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Then her expression changed. She saw that at the door, a figure was standing under the moonlight, looking at her with a playful attitude. The female researcher's heart tightened, and she quickly used her telekinesis to investigate the corpse in the room. She saw that the wounds on the corpse were quickly healing. Even the head and heart were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The female researcher turned around and looked at Immerse outside the door. What was going on? What the hell? But there was no time to think. Her right hand instantly transformed into a sanguisurincus as thick as an arm, and stabbed towards Immerse. Although she was a level 10 psychokinesis, zombies felt that using weapons was not as convenient as using their own claws or sanguisurincus. So she used the sanguisurincus to attack first. However, when her two sanguisurincus were 1 meter away from Immerse, they hit an invisible wall. No matter how hard she tried, the sanguisurincus couldn't move forward even an inch. This made the female researcher very frightened. As a psychokinesis, she understood telekinesis very well. Telekinesis could only be used to control objects. When could it be used to directly defend? In order to condense telekinesis into a defensive barrier, one first needed an extremely large amount of telekinesis. Even she, a level 10 psychokinesis, was far from being able to do it. Secondly, one needed to have extreme control over telekinesis. This wasn't something that any level 10 psychokinesis could do. A thought flashed through the female researcher's mind. This human was a freak. While she was still in shock, more than 10 sanguisurincus extended from her body and attacked Immerse. At the same time, her level 10 telekinesis was released. Chapter 124. When the female researcher saw that her attack had missed, she immediately attacked Immerse with more than a dozen sanguisurincus and telekinesis. This time, she had learned her lesson. The sanguisurincus circled around, intending to bypass the barrier. However, after circling around and attacking Immerse's back, she once again hit the invisible barrier. Only then did she realize that the invisible telekinesis barrier was omnidirectional. At the same time, her telekinesis also attacked Immerse. However, just as her psyche power touched Immerse's body trembled. Suddenly, a violent and domineering telekinesis spread out from Immerse's body. It was like a tsunami, like an earthquake. It counterattacked her telekinesis. Almost in an instant, her telekinesis was directly defeated. She didn't even have the chance to retreat into her body. At the same time, her mind was already blank. She had lost her ability to think. Only instinctive desire was left. A shocking roar burst out from her throat. She pounced towards Immerse. Immerse activated his dragon telekinesis. The female researcher was instantly lifted up. She flew out of the door involuntarily. Then, she flew towards the sky. The female researcher tried to struggle. But that domineering telekinesis made it impossible for her to resist. Soon, she disappeared into the night sky. A moment later, a patrol team was patrolling near the corpse farm. But at this moment, bang, a loud sound suddenly came from about 10 meters to their left. This loud sound came so suddenly that almost all the team members were shocked and subconsciously jumped a few steps to the side. Then, they looked in the direction of the loud sound. They saw something falling from the sky. They shone their flashlights over. Their expressions immediately changed. They saw the outline of a human in the dust. Taking a closer look, they saw that it was indeed just the outline of a human. It had already been smashed into a pulp. It was badly mutilated. And there was a lot of ice shards on the surface of its body. It had fallen from a height of at least 5,000 to 6,000 meters. These patrol team members all subconsciously looked up at the sky. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Other than that, they couldn't see anything. The few of them were all panic-stricken. Soon, the members of the hunter group arrived. After investigating the scene, they identified the body as the female researcher based on the clothes on the body. It wasn't easy for them to borrow this female researcher. He had only been here for a day, and he was already killed. When the chief of the base found out about this, he ordered a thorough investigation. It was 3:00 at night. Base chief's office. The bureau chief frowned. Someone had killed a researcher. This was clearly an attempt to sabotage the base's plans to build a laboratory. Who was the one who didn't want the base to build a laboratory? No matter how hard he thought about it, he could not think of such a person. There were a few people sitting on the sofa in his office. Staff officer, Hao Ren, and Jin Shishir. These were all his capable subordinates. However, the three of them were also frowning at this moment, not saying a word. They were here because they wanted to discuss with the chief who could be the murderer. Secondly, they were waiting for orders. As long as there were any clues, they would act immediately. Chief, to be able to throw someone down from a height of 5 to 6,000 meters, other than a flying mutant beast, it could only be that mysterious strong man. There were no flying mutant beasts tonight, so it's most likely that mysterious strong man did it. The staff officer said. The chief nodded. I thought of that too. But, why did the mysterious strong man stop us from building a laboratory? The chief's frown deepened. If it was really done by the mysterious strong man, then there was nothing they could do. Hao Ren and Jin Shishir looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. After a while, a soldier walked in. Chief, the blood analysis is out. Everyone's eyes focused. Perhaps they could get some clues from the blood analysis. The soldier continued, the female researcher carried a large amount of virus X in her body. According to the results, she should be a zombie. Zombie? Everyone's eyes widened at the same time. Even the chief was in disbelief. Howren shook his head. Could it be a mistake? The female researcher is a zombie? We borrowed her from base C3. The soldier replied, the person in charge of the blood analysis has already done it 3 times, and the results are all the same. She's a zombie. The few of them were shocked, but they also felt relieved one after another. If the female researcher was a zombie, then it made sense for the mysterious strong man to kill her. The soldier continued. And according to the blood analysis, the strength of her cells far exceeds that of our hunters. I'm afraid, she's a level 10 strong mutant zombie, or even a super mutant zombie. When everyone heard this, they all felt a lingering fear. They had seen the power of a super mutant zombie. If the mysterious strong man did not find and get rid of the female researcher early, then their entire base would be in big trouble again. They should be thankful and grateful to the mysterious strong man. The chief said to the soldier, who brought her back, call that person over. Soon, the helicopter pilot was brought over. The chief's face was gloomy as he said, tell me in detail how you met the female researcher and how you brought her back. The helicopter pilot also knew that something had happened. He did not dare to hide anything. He hurriedly explained what had happened to him. When he arrived at base C3, he said a lot of good things, but base C3 did not agree to lend them the researcher. Helplessly, he planned to leave. But just as he was about to leave, a woman suddenly rushed over. She said that she was a researcher in the laboratory and had volunteered to come to base C2. Thus, he brought her back. He did not expect that this female researcher was a super mutant zombie disguised as a human. The pilot felt a chill on the back of his neck. He actually stayed in the same helicopter with a super mutant zombie for more than 40 minutes. It was like taking a stroll through the gates of hell. It was 2F** King exciting. At the same time, in Immerse's room. He ordered the virus clone to clean up the bloodstains in the room. He himself checked the memories of the super mutant zombie. It turned out that this super mutant zombie's arm was lightly scratched by a zombie's claw. She became a zombie after being infected. After that, she mutated into a super mutant zombie in a blood pool in a nest. After becoming a super mutant zombie, her skin looked no different from a normal person's. Only her eyes were still grayish-white. As long as she wore black contact lenses, she would look completely human from the outside. After that, she received orders from the nest to assassinate Immerse. But she did not expect that Immerse had the blood demon's eyes and could easily tell that she was a zombie. After checking these memories, Immerse sneered. Interesting. These nests actually sent zombies to assassinate him. When he became a level 3 great hunter and could do whatever he wanted in Huaxia, it would be the day these nests were destroyed. Chapter 125. The next day, in order to express goodwill to the mysterious powerhouse, the base chief let people spread what happened last night. Naturally, people were grateful to the mysterious powerhouse. However, other than gratitude, there were also other comments. Why are strange things happening in the base recently? Yeah, so many strange things have never happened before. It seems. Ever since those two people from base C1 came, the base has not been peaceful. Now that you mention it, it's true. Before they came, we hadn't had any trouble here for a few years. As soon as the two of them came, there were strong mutated zombies coming to the base to capture people. Then there were super mutated zombies that captured all the hunters and psychokinesis. Now even zombies have begun to disguise themselves as humans. Although I don't believe in ghosts and gods, these two people are like jinxes. It's really unsettling. The matter of the super mutated zombies had come to an end. That night, Immerse once again signed in 10 drops of the Titan Dragon bloodline modification liquid. He only took 3 drops. He felt his body begin to heat up. Every cell in his body became abnormally active. All the cells in his body were no longer pure human cells. They had been changed by the modification liquid into cells that were stronger than human cells and could hold more energy. Of course, this was only less than 1 in 10 million. 5 minutes later, the hot feeling in his body gradually disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a feeling of strength. In his mind, his attribute interface showed frowny face name, Immerse, level 2 Great Hunter, level 1 Long Nian Shi, evolution direction, Titan Dragon. Immerse was overjoyed. Originally, it was extremely difficult for a Great Hunter to advance by 1 level. If there were other Great Hunters on Earth, it would take more than 10 or even decades to advance by 1 level. However, he had advanced by 1 level in just 10 days. He had advanced even faster than those corpse hunters. If others knew about this, they would probably be envious to death. Then, Immerse estimated. With the effect of the modification liquid, it would probably take 3 months to advance to level 3. But that might not be the case. If the system leveled up again, who knew what the effect would be? Maybe after leveling up, it would increase by 100 times. Wouldn't that mean he could level up again in just a few days? However, most of the zombies and mutant beasts near base C2 had been killed by him. There was no source of evolution points. On the other hand, it would consume 110,000 yuan a night. When would the system be able to upgrade again? However, there were still many zombies and mutant beasts around base C1. He had already completed his work at base C2, so there was no point in staying any longer. She had not seen Happy for many days, and she still missed him a little. No matter how one looked at it, they would have to leave after 4 or 5 days at most. In the next few days, he often went to the Karma Temple to chat with the old monk. The old monk knew a lot of strange stories. Immerse treated it as a story. At the same time, in the temple, the people who came to offer incense occasionally complained about the two people from base C2. Immerse just laughed it off. Would an elephant care about the complaints of an ant? That night, after Immerse signed in, he let the virus clone lie on the bed to replace him. Meanwhile, his main body entered the dragon's cave. This was his habit after obtaining the dragon's cave. The virus clone lay on the bed so that no one would notice that he had inexplicably disappeared. At the same time, if someone wanted to harm him, the virus clone could also die in his place. His main body slept and rested in the dragon's cave to nurture Longwei. After a period of nurturing, his Longwei had obviously strengthened a lot. If he encountered that level 2 super mutant zombie again, he could release Longwei and make her feel fear. But that night, while he was nurturing Longwei, suddenly, his mind moved slightly. The clone in the room outside had a trace of his dragon will. He could sense the outside world through the clone. In his perception, the ground suddenly shook violently. When the clone spread its psychic power out of a radius of 1,000 meters, it found that all the surrounding houses, trees, and utility poles were shaking violently. Earthquake. Immerse sighed. He couldn't sleep well. He retreated from the dragon's cave. Then, he put the virus clone into his backpack. At this moment, under the violent shaking, the entire building had begun to collapse. Rumble, rumble, from time to time, huge pieces of cement fell down. However, when the cement hit the top of Immerse's head, it was gently swept away by his dragon will. An ordinary level 1 psychic could at most lift something that weighed a ton with psychic power. However, Immerse's dragon will could easily lift something that weighed dozens of tons. So sweeping away the cement was not a problem. Then, he took a step forward and came to the square in front of the emergency shelter. In the next moment, he took a step forward. Rumble, the entire apartment building collapsed with a bang. Smoke and dust swept out like a tsunami. Immerse jumped out of the range of the smoke and dust. He used his psychic power to explore a radius of 10 kilometers. Within this 10 kilometers, 1/3 of the houses had collapsed. People screamed, ran, and cried in horror. This earthquake lasted for a full 5 minutes. And the epicenter was in the residential area. After the earthquake, people stayed in the open space for a few hours. It was late winter, and people were covered in dust, cold, and sleepy, but they didn't dare to go back to sleep. Those who had lost their relatives and friends, some were crying heart-wrenchingly, some were whimpering softly. There were also people who kept complaining. What's going on? First, the strong mutated zombie came to the base to capture people, then the super mutated zombie captured the hunter and psychokinesis, then the super mutated zombie disguised as humans to sneak into the base, and now there's an earthquake. Oh heavens, are you really going to kill them all? During this period of time, the base hasn't been peaceful at all. Sigh, is the real end of the world coming? Someone recalled the previous remarks. Don't you think it's strange? All of this happened after the 2 people from base C2 came. That's right, everything was fine before they came. Someone asked the old monk, Master, do you think those 2 people are evil spirits that crawled out of hell and came to base C2 specifically to take our lives? The old monk shook his head, Amitba, all effects have a cause. What was planted in the previous life, what was the result in this life? We can only face it calmly and bear our own karma. Don't make wild guesses and frame others. However, no one was in the mood to listen to the old monk's Zen theory at this time. It must be them. We have to get them out of base C2. Get them out. Getting out of base C2 is a light punishment. Let them leave and then go and harm other bases? Kill them. A man who had just lost 2 children roared with bloodshot eyes. Let them die. A man whose legs were smashed into a bloody mess also roared angrily. Chapter 126. These days, people had been in a state of panic and uneasiness. They had been suppressed for too long and needed an outlet to vent their emotions. Especially today, more than 100 people had died in the earthquake. More than 700 people had been injured. Those who had lost their relatives and friends, or those who had lost their limbs, were almost hysterical at this moment. My family is gone, my limbs are gone. Why are you still fine when I have lost everything? If I can't get better, none of you can get better. Under the accumulation of depression and hysteria, many people began to target Immerse and Xiao Di. Kill them. Burn them. They brought this disaster. Kill them. Immerse looked at all of this coldly. He couldn't be bothered with these stupid humans. At the same time, he could understand how Hao Ren and Jin Shishir felt when they were at base C1. However, unlike them, Hao Ren and Jin Shishir couldn't escape at that time. If Immerse wanted to leave, who could stop him? If he didn't want to leave, who could kill him? Seeing that he couldn't persuade everyone, the old monk could only shake his head helplessly and chant the name of Buddha. Amitba. Perhaps, this was the karma of benefactor Mo and the others. Hao Ren squeezed through the crowd and walked out. He said to everyone, brothers and sisters, I know how you feel. But you say that all of this is their fault. Do you have any evidence? They came to our base from thousands of kilometers away to help us. Now, not only are we not grateful to them, but we are also accusing them of something they didn't do. Isn't this too disappointing? Zhen Shishir also followed. Although she didn't say much and her tone was very cold. But she was very determined. I believe them. In the past, if a level 5 hunter and a level 4 psychokinesis stood up and spoke, everyone would definitely be convinced. But today, everyone finally found an outlet to vent their emotions. Seeing that they were about to vent, how could it be so easy to block this outlet? Although the base chief heard what everyone was saying, he didn't step out to support Immerse and the others. As the leader, he knew that if everyone didn't vent their emotions, something big would happen. Anyway, it seemed that the laboratory would not be built. Since these two had become the target of everyone's venting, then let nature take its course. In the hunting group, there was a hunter with a look of grief and indignation. Vice Commander Hao, Vice Commander Zhen. I also want to believe in you. But ever since they had arrived, all sorts of things had happened one after another. My wife's leg was also broken just now. How can I believe that? As soon as the corpse hunter said this, the others were filled with grief and indignation again. Psychokinesis, who had just lost her son, had bloodshot eyes. The veins on his forehead bulged. The words of the surrounding people were like adding oil to the fire. At a certain moment, he finally lost all reason. His son was dead, and he didn't want to live anymore. Don't live anymore. He activated his telekinesis and searched for Immerse and Xiao Di in the crowd. Soon, he found Xiao Di, who was more than 10 meters away. Then, more than 30 throwing knives flew over everyone's heads and headed straight for Xiao Di. However, he was only a level 3 psychokinesis. And Xiao Di's brain cells had been unearthed by Immerse before, and he was already a level 5 psychokinesis. Feeling the throwing knives coming, he activated his telekinesis. It instantly spread out. The 30 throwing knives were instantly sent flying far away. More than 20 throwing knives fell to the ground with a few clangs. But a few of them flew and fell into the crowd. A woman's arm was cut and she immediately screamed. The surrounding people immediately screamed and fled. Only Immerse and Xiao Di were left standing in the middle of the open space. The hunters and psychokinesis of the hunting group immediately stepped forward and surrounded Immerse and Xiao Di in a fan shape. The people who screamed and fled saw the hunters and psychokinesis at this moment. They turned back and shouted behind the hunters and psychokinesis. This kid is psychokinesis. Damn, he hit it so well. He has bad intentions. He really hurt people. It seems that they did everything. He finally showed his true colors. Kill him and avenge our family. Kill them. Kill them. If we don't kill them, our base won't be safe. The angry crowd kept raising their fists, waving them, and cursing behind the members of psychokinesis and the hunting group. Some people even picked up bricks and stones by the side of the road and threw them at Immerse and Xiao Di. Hao Ren and Zhen Shishir wanted to stop them, but how could they stop these crazy people? They couldn't use force directly. The old monk could only lower his eyelids, put his palms together, and keep chanting in a low voice, Amitba, Amitba, Amitba. The base chief saw that it was about time, and his eyes were cold. He ordered the hunting group, all psychokinesis, suppress his telekinesis. Hunters, shrink the encirclement and prevent them from escaping. Hunters, get close and take them down. If necessary, kill them on the spot. Everyone in the hunting group immediately took a few steps forward. More than 30 psychics were controlling 400 flying daggers with their telekinesis. At the same time, they approached Immerse and Xiao Di. Those hunters, each of them fierce, also closed in on Immerse and the others. Xiao Di's level 5 telekinesis was already a little overwhelmed when resisting more than 30 psychokinesis telekinesis at the same time. The hunters were less than 5 meters away from them. More than 400 throwing knives were less than 3 meters away from them. At this moment, Immerse moved. His right arm slowly thickened. Black scales appeared on the surface. His 5 fingers slowly turned into 5 dragon claws. Then, he gently moved forward. Whoosh, an invisible force instantly extended forward. Boom! Time seemed to stop, and the scene seemed to be frozen. The next moment, on the ground, a huge ravine that was 50 meters wide appeared. This huge ravine actually extended for 5 kilometers. It almost divided the entire base into two. The ravine was dozens of meters deep. The edges were as smooth as a mirror. It was as if a huge invisible blade had appeared from the sky and divided the ground into two. The hunters, corpse hunters, and psychokinesis who had surrounded Immerse and the others. They were all wiped out. Even the thousands of people behind them were sliced into pieces by the invisible force, their flesh and blood splattering everywhere. Even those who weren't in the middle of the claw marks were directly torn apart by the invisible force. At this moment, silence. The cold wind whistled past. The angry crowd from before was as quiet as the dead. Those who were screaming shut their mouths. Those who threw bricks slipped from their hands to the ground. Some of the more timid ones were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. They looked at the huge ravine that was like a natural chasm, looked at the thousands of broken bodies in the ravine, and looked at the ground that was stained red with blood. They were all speechless for a long time. Immerse's cold eyes were emotionless. He withdrew his dragon claws. He turned around and slowly walked into the darkness in the distance. The old monk lowered his eyelids and slowly chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha. Chapter 127. Immerse turned around and walked slowly into the darkness. Xiaodi also turned around and followed Immerse into the darkness. Behind them, the remaining 10,000 people couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. They were shocked, and their faces were full of shock. They were frightened, and their eyes were full of fear. 1/5 of the hunters in their hunting group were killed in an instant. Almost all the hunters and psychokinesis in the hunting group were killed. More than 1,000 crazy civilians were also turned into broken limbs and broken bodies. This zombie breeder's strength was terrifying. After a long time, the staff officer said in shock. The mysterious strong man. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. The mysterious strong man. This was the mysterious strong man they had been talking about these days. The mysterious strong man they had set up a longevity tablet for. The strong man who killed more than 100 strong mutated zombies without making a sound. Within an hour, he slaughtered an entire city. The mysterious strong man who killed a super mutated zombie in one move. And what did they do? They wanted to kill the mysterious strong man. How stupid must one be to do such a thing? The mysterious strong man was angry, and thousands of people died. They were forced to do this. More importantly, if there were powerful zombies and mutated beasts, the mysterious strong man could kill them. Now, the mysterious strong man had abandoned the base. If more super mutated zombies came, they didn't even dare to think about the consequences. At this moment, their intestines were green with regret. Hao Ren and Jin Shishir also widened their eyes. Both of their minds were blank. In their eyes, Immerse was just an ordinary person. They didn't see anything different about him from ordinary people when they were in Base C1, and on the way to Base C2 by helicopter. They never thought that he was a hunter. And he was strong enough to kill dozens of hunters and more than 30 psychokinesis in one move. With such strength, he was probably not a level 10 hunter. He was more than a level 10 hunter. The chief of the base had a complicated expression on his face. There was shock, disbelief, and regret. That zombie breeder was the mysterious strong man. They should have known. When the two of them arrived at Base C2, the mysterious man appeared. He should have known that the two of them were related to the mysterious expert. But he had overlooked it and been deceived by their appearances. Then, he did such a stupid thing. This caused the mysterious expert to kill thousands of people in a fit of rage. Apart from a handful of hunters, the rest of the hunters and more than 30 psychokinesis were all killed. Most importantly, he had angered the mysterious expert and caused the base to lose a powerful guardian. At that moment, the chief of the base wished he could slap himself a few times on the spot. At this moment, the staff officer beside him walked over. He asked in a low voice, "Chief, what do we do now?" The bureau chief's brows were tightly furrowed, and his expression was ugly. After pondering for a long time, he opened his mouth to speak. However, before he could finish his sentence, bang! His entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. There was no flesh or bone. It had completely exploded at the cellular level. Only a few pieces of cloth were left behind, dancing in the cold wind along with the bloody mist. It was like a drunken bloody butterfly. It clearly showed everyone how the 100-strong mutated zombies had disappeared. The staff officer was covered in blood. He was extremely frightened. He took a few steps back and fell to the ground. Most of the people present squatted on the ground subconsciously. They held their heads with their hands. They were afraid that they would suddenly explode. They knew firsthand what it meant to be dominated by fear. Or rather, they had been completely dominated by fear. When the mysterious expert was angry, it was terrifying. At the scene, only 3 people could still barely stand. These 3 people were Hao Ren, Jin Shishir, and the old monk. After a long time, Hao Ren's face was dejected. He slowly shook his head and said to the crowd, "This is the result you want?" Everyone was silent. They didn't dare to make a sound. The old monk lowered his eyelids and said, "Amitabha. You reap what you sow." The little monk, who was squatting on the ground next to him, held his head tightly. A chill ran down his spine. He kept muttering, "Amitabha. Don't kill me. Amitabha. It's my mouth." He had once said that the zombie keeper was a pretentious prick. The zombie keeper was very powerful. If he found out, would he be in a good situation? In the wilderness. Immerse slowed down and slowly moved forward. Those people's so-called mysterious experts' anger were actually thinking too much. Immerse wasn't angry at all. With his current strength, those below the level of a grand hunter were ants. What was there to be angry about a group of ants? He had inadvertently saved these people a few times in times of danger. He didn't expect these people to be grateful to him and repay him. And now, these people had offended him and offended him. He wouldn't be angry at all. He would just kill them. As for the base chief, he naturally wouldn't let him go. Behind him, Xiao Di quickly caught up with him. But with level 5 psychokinesis, his body was only the same as an ordinary person's. No matter how fast he ran, he couldn't catch up with Immerse. Immerse turned his head and said, "I'm going back to base C1. If you want to go back, follow me slowly." This guy was too slow. He couldn't be bothered to wait. Anyway, with him cleaning up the zombies in front, this guy with the strength of level 5 psychokinesis wouldn't be in too much danger. Of course, with Immerse's current strength, he couldn't be bothered to deal with zombies below the level of super mutated. He directly let the virus clone deal with them in front. The virus clone had the strength of a level 10 hunter and level 10 psychokinesis. It wouldn't be too much of a problem to deal with these zombies and mutated beasts. Immerse treated the more than 1,000 kilometers as a vacation. On the 4th day, they passed by Emperor Qin's mausoleum. The mausoleum was still filled with corpse aura. The corpse aura was so heavy that it seemed to have solidified. It connected the sky and the earth. It seemed to have the aura of supremacy in the world. It actually made Immerse's heart palpitate slightly. However, this palpitating feeling was far less intense than the last time. Immerse frowned slightly. There was no virus hive nearby, so he couldn't know what was going on in the Qinshur Hills. It was better not to pay attention to it for the time being. When he was stronger in the future, he would go there and try to see if he could sign something good. Then, he turned his head to look at the Terracotta Army Museum. There was no corpse aura there. He remembered the green-faced terracotta zombie he saw the last time. He took a step forward and came to the Terracotta Army Museum. With a sweep of his psychic power, Immerse frowned even more. In the entire Terracotta Army Museum, more than 8,000 terracotta figures had disappeared. The 3 huge terracotta pits were empty. There was nothing. Thinking of a certain possibility, Immerse felt that it was a bit ridiculous. However, if this kind of nonsense was true, walking out of the museum, he looked in the direction of Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Previously, he didn't find any information about the so-called king in the consciousness of the virus hive. Could it be the king that those zombies mentioned before they died was there? Chapter 128. Immerse took one last look at the direction of Emperor Qin's mausoleum. He didn't stay any longer. He walked towards base C1 with large strides. After half a day, he was finally not far from base C1. He took a look at his evolution points in his mind. In these few days, he had killed countless zombies and mutated beasts. He had already obtained more than 87 million evolution points. He was about to reach 100 million. Thus, he didn't immediately return to base C1. Instead, he circled around base C1 within 200 kilometers. He cleared out all the zombies and mutated beasts here. His evolution points had already reached 91 million. As for where to get the remaining 9 million, he had already thought of a place to go. There was a city about 300 kilometers northwest of base C1. Previously, from the consciousness of the virus hive, he saw that there was another virus hive in that city. If he went there, he would definitely be able to obtain enough evolution points. Moreover, since the virus hive had sent a super mutated zombie to assassinate him, then he would have to clear out all the virus hive step by step. He used the small success dragon shadow step, 10 kilometers in one step. In just 30 steps, he arrived at the city. When he arrived, all the plants had turned blood red. On the ground, Sanguisurincus intertwined. When Immerse walked past, these Sanguisurincus slowly wrapped around Immerse's feet. However, when Immerse released Longway, these Sanguisurincus retreated one after another. When he arrived at the entrance of the city, he looked with his blood demon eyes. The thick corpse aura seemed to have solidified. However, with Immerse's current strength, he didn't feel that this kind of corpse aura was very dangerous. The corpse aura here was far worse than the one in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. He entered the city through the highway toll booth. A huge dragon was swept across. With him as the center, all the zombies within a radius of 10 kilometers exploded into a bloody mist. When he walked forward, behind him, he left behind a bloody mist that was 20 kilometers wide. In the end, the bloody mist fell to the ground. The withered grass, walls, and ground that were already red were dyed even more bloody red. With such a width, there was no need to sweep back and forth in the city like before. As long as it was done once, the zombies in the city would be wiped clean. At the same time, his mind was once again filled with evolution points. Killed level 3 variant zombie. Evolution points plus 300. Killed level 5 strong variant zombie. Evolution points plus 5,000. In just over 10 minutes, most of the zombies in the city had been cleared by him. He looked at it in his mind. His evolution points had reached 99. 73 million points. The difference was less than 270,000. He turned around and looked at the place where the corpse chi was the densest. That should be where the nest was. Stepping on the blood-red ground, he walked towards the broodmother's nest. A moment later, they arrived at an underground parking lot. The Sanguisurincus in the parking lot was already as thick as an arm. Thousands of Sanguisurincus slithered towards Immerse like snakes when they saw Immerse. However, after Immerse released his Longway, these Sanguisurincus immediately became obedient. One by one, they hurriedly shrank back with drooping heads. In the middle of the underground parking lot, there was a huge crack that was 5 meters wide and 50 meters long. Judging from the corpse chi, the broodmother's nest was under the crack. The broodmother's nest was really sneaky. It was actually built here. If he did not have the blood demon pupil, he might not have been able to find it. He first probed the broodmother's nest with his draconic sense. Under his investigation, there was a huge cave underground. The entire cave was a huge broodmother's nest. Immerse jumped into the crack. The crack was 5 kilometers deep. Under the crack, it was so dark that one could not even see their own fingers. A thick smell of blood came from the dark tunnel ahead. In the dark tunnel, there were 23 level 10 variant zombies. However, with Immerse's current strength, even if they were level 10 variant zombies, they would explode into a bloody mist with just a sweep of his draconic sense. After getting rid of the 23 level 10 variant zombies, his evolution points had reached 96 million. He was less than 40,000 points away. This was the same as killing 4 level 10 variant zombies. Immerse couldn't help but feel a little excited. Soon, he arrived at the huge cave. From here, he could only see 10 or so giant sarcomas with a diameter of 10 meters. These sarcomas had already blocked the entrance, so he could not see the situation inside. Immerse was planning to destroy these sarcomas. However, at this time, the ground behind him suddenly shook. Then, rumble rumble, the dark tunnel that he had just passed began to collapse. Moments later, the tunnel above his head collapsed with a rumble. He quickly used his telekinesis to block above his head and behind him, forming a telekinesis barrier to block the falling rocks and dirt. However, when it rains, it pours. The huge sarcomas in front of him also exploded at this moment. Bang bang bang. However, the strange thing was that from the exploded sarcomas, what flowed out was not blood, but fiery red magma. That fiery red, hot magma surged towards Immerse. Immerse instantly realized that this was a trap. It was a trap set by the mother nest. The underground mother nest was a fake mother nest, and it was only there to lure him in. Then she would use the magma to kill him. Fuck, did this mother nest go somewhere to train? She's getting smarter and smarter. Last time she sent an assassin, this time she was trying to lure him in. At this time, the only thing Immerse could do was to use his draconic sense to block the rocks above and behind him. At the same time, he had to block the hot magma in front of him. However, even though his draconic sense was strong, it was not strong enough to block the thousands of tons of rocks above his head. In just a moment, the rocks above his head were already less than half a meter away from his head. He could only use more draconic sense above his head. However, this way, the amount of draconic sense left for the magma was much less. At a certain moment, bang, the walls of the tunnel on his left and right also instantly cracked. From the left and right, a large amount of magma also surged out. This time, Immerse could no longer resist. He could only watch helplessly as the magma swallowed his feet. Then his legs, waist, chest. Until the top of his head was swallowed. At the same time, above the tunnel, sanguisurincus as thick as thighs kept appearing in the entire underground parking lot. On the ground of the parking lot, thousands of sanguisurincus appeared. A large amount of blood seeped out of the sanguisurincus. In less than 5 minutes, the entire underground parking lot had formed a huge blood pool. The blood pool was more than 3 meters deep. More than 20 huge sarcomas had grown out of the 2 entrances of the parking lot, blocking the entrances. It turned out that this was the real virus mother nest. Soon, 7 or 8 level 10 strong mutated zombies squeezed in from the sarcomas. They let out excited roars from their throats. That human is finally dead. The trap set by the mother nest is really powerful. Once that human is dead, we can launch a general attack on the human base according to the king's will. Chapter 129. 129. His great chin has fallen. The virus hive had set a trap and swallowed Immerse with magma. The real hive was then revealed. At this time, in the mother nest, the 7 level 10 mutant zombies were bathing in the blood pool as they roared and communicated with each other. Although that human is strong, he's still too stupid. He thought he could do whatever he wanted because he was strong, but he fell into the hive's trap. Sure enough, no matter how strong humans are, they're just a bunch of pitiful worms. Just as they were discussing. Suddenly, rumble, almost instantly, the concrete above their heads shook violently. The 7-level, 10 mutant zombies' faces all changed. The next moment, boom, the entire hive seemed to have been hit by a meteorite falling from the sky. It collapsed with a loud bang. The huge sarcomas at the entrance of the hive also exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. In almost an instant, the entire hive was buried under the ground. On the ground, Immerse looked at the huge pit in front of him that was more than 200 meters in diameter. There was no emotion in his cold eyes. A moment later, a level 10 mutated zombie crawled out of the ruins at the edge of the huge pit. When he saw Immerse's figure, his grayish-white eyes were full of horror and disbelief. How could it be? How could this human still be alive? Didn't he already die in the underground magma? But then, with horror, he threatened. The king won't let you go. The next moment. Boom, this level 10 mutated zombie's body had also exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Only then did a faint smile appear on Immerse's face. The hive's trap was really deep. But it had underestimated Immerse's level of cowardice. He had the check-in system, but he could stay in the base for more than 10 years. Would such a person casually enter the underground fissure? When he was playing games in his previous life, he understood the essence of the word cowardice. Cowardly development, don't King wander. This was the sentence he said most often. How could a person who could be so cowardly while playing games casually enter an underground crack? Previously, when he entered the dragon ruins, he used his telekinesis to explore again and again, and then used the zombie puppets to probe inside first. Now that an unknown crack had appeared, he naturally couldn't go down. Instead, he created a virus clone and went to investigate. Sure enough, it was all part of the broodmother's trap. This broodmother is actually playing mind games with me. It's a pity that he's not as cunning as I am, smart. At this time, after killing those zombies, the evolution points in Immerse's mind finally broke through the 100 million mark. The system's voice prompted frowny face evolution points have reached 100 million. The system can be upgraded again. Do you want to upgrade? Immerse said, no. Unable to sign in during the upgrade period. Since he was already here, he naturally had to sign in before leveling up. System, sign in. Sign in successful. Sign in location, virus hive, sign in reward, broodmother sanguisurincus. Immerse looked at the skills description in his mind. Broodmother sanguisurincus, the virus in the body can produce a large number of sanguisurincus. Sanguisurincus can extend up to 50 kilometers to scout for information or be used for combat. Immerse moved his mind. Under his feet, a sanguisurincus as thick as an arm spread out. This sanguisurincus directly drilled into the ground. Then, under the ground, it spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. In the end, it spread out to a radius of 50 kilometers. At this moment, even if Immerse didn't use his dragon's will, everything within 50 kilometers was within his perception. His mind moved again. More than 30 kilometers away, under the feet of a strong mutated zombie, more than 10 sanguisurincus as thick as an arm suddenly stretched out. This strong mutated zombie had long been used to the sanguisurincus. Moreover, it knew that this sanguisurincus came from the broodmother, so it felt very familiar. Therefore, it didn't have the slightest bit of defense. But at this moment, more than 10 sanguisurincus suddenly pierced towards the strong mutated zombie. Puff 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 puff, every sanguisurincus pierced into the strong mutated zombie's body. Until death, the strong mutated zombie's eyes were filled with astonishment. In its eyes, the broodmother was like a mother. Every zombie was the broodmother's son. This was too vicious, it didn't even let its own son go. At the same time, it also encountered tens of thousands of zombies and mutated beasts. With Immerse as the center, within a radius of 50 kilometers, all the zombies and mutated beasts were attacked by the sanguisurincus at the same time. And in Immerse's mind, evolution points once again flooded the screen. With this wave, he obtained more than 1 million evolution points. At this time, Immerse said in his mind, the system can be upgraded. The system instantly replied, frowny face, this upgrade requires 12 hours. Unable to sign in during the upgrade. Confirm upgrade. Confirm. The system still had a bit of conscience. That was, it did not need to use evolution points during the upgrade. Otherwise, his 100 million evolution points would not be much left after leveling up. After doing all this, Immerse did not relax. This was because when he killed the broodmother, he had connected to the broodmother's consciousness. In the broodmother's consciousness, a vague figure appeared. He could feel that the broodmother's consciousness at that time had the same thought, King will not let you go. It was very clear that this figure should be the so-called king. Previously, Immerse had always thought that the king was a powerful zombie under the broodmother's control. But now, it seemed that the king was an existence above the broodmother's. This was also the reason why he could not find the king in the broodmother's consciousness. But this time, he could see the vague outline of the king in the broodmother's consciousness. It seemed to be a zombie. He could roughly feel that the king's strength should be at the level of a super-mutated zombie. As for what level of super-mutated zombie it was, he could not feel it for the time being. Moreover, the king actually sent a message to Immerse through the broodmother's consciousness. If you dare to destroy another broodmother's nest, I will make you pay the price. Immerse only sneered at this. What he hated the most in his life was people threatening him. After the system upgrade, he could peacefully sign in for a period of time. Once his strength increases, even if the king came, he would be able to slap it to death. At the same time, nearly 1,000 kilometers away, in the depths of Emperor Qin's tomb. In the dark main hall, a green-faced terracotta zombie was kneeling there motionlessly. It was as if it was a real terracotta. Above the main hall, on the dragon throne, a terracotta that seemed to have been sleeping for 1,000 years slowly opened its eyes. This terracotta was wearing a black dragon robe and a crown on its head. Its face was black. From its ears to its mouth, it had a long black beard. Its appearance was majestic and did not lose its dignity. Its entire body was filled with the aura of a king that looked down on the world. His gaze swept across the green-faced zombie terracotta under the main hall. The next moment, his figure instantly disappeared from the dragon throne. When he reappeared, he was already at the top of Emperor Qin's tomb. From here, he looked down at the surrounding wilderness. The sky was blue and the water was blue, but there was no one. As far as the eye could see, there was not a single living person. After a moment, his eyes flashed. From his throat, he let out a roar that sounded like a zombie's, but also like a human's roar. This roar reverberated in all directions. All the zombies and mutated beasts within a radius of dozens of kilometers were all frightened. My great Qin is dead? Chapter 130. After Immerse destroyed the nest, he didn't stay for long and went straight back to base C1. When everyone in base C1 saw that Immerse had returned, they were all excited. Although they had seen Immerse's ruthless side and were a little afraid of Immerse. But this was a mysterious powerhouse after all. His combat strength could be said to be abnormal. With him around, the base was absolutely safe. Because these people were in awe of Immerse, no one dared to get too close. They only dared to look at him from afar. At the same time, the chief of the base and the leader of the hunter group hurried over when they heard that Immerse had returned. But they all knew that Immerse liked peace and quiet. If they rushed over now, would it make Immerse unhappy? If Immerse was unhappy, he might tear 10,000 people apart with a thought. After all, the scene of the hunters and psychokinesis tearing apart the hunters of base C10 was still vivid in their minds. After hesitating for a moment, they finally decided not to disturb Immerse. Immerse was so powerful, but he could hide in the base for more than 10 years. It was obvious that he didn't care about fame, nor did he care about profits. His mentality was just as indifferent, tranquil, and aloof from worldly affairs as his appearance suggested. However, although they didn't disturb him, they still had to do what they had to do. The chief of the base ordered everyone, from today onwards, no one is allowed to go near the corpse farm. Otherwise, they will be punished by military law. The staff officer next to him said carefully, "Chief, if there is no one else near the corpse farm, won't it be too unnatural? This will make him unhappy. I think it's better for everyone to do what they did before. As long as we don't deliberately disturb him, he shouldn't mind, right?" Then, he turned his head and looked at Do Xiaodo. "Captain Xiaodo, you used to be his colleague, so you know him better. What do you think?" The chief also turned his head and looked at Do Xiaodo. Do Xiaodo suddenly felt a lot more pressure on him. "Damn it, I'm just a small captain. Why do you have to drag me down with you big shots? And how could I possibly understand him? If I understood him, I would have known that he was a mysterious expert for more than 10 years. However, on the surface, he still thought for a moment before speaking. I feel that he's a person who stands aloof from worldly affairs and is quiet and natural. He's usually very easygoing. As long as you don't provoke him or disturb him, everything else will be fine as usual." The bureau chief and the staff officer nodded. Captain Littlebean is indeed insightful. Hence, the bureau chief immediately ordered, "No one is allowed to disturb MO. Mr. MO violators will be dealt with according to military law. Everything else will continue as usual." He really didn't know how to address MO Sure. It was no longer appropriate to call him a mysterious expert. Calling him Lord, Senior, and so on seemed very strange. He could only address him as Mr. MO. Everyone hurriedly said solemnly, "Yes, Chief." MO Sure went straight back to the corpse farm. Happy was feeding pigs in the corpse farm. However, he was somewhat absent-minded. Big Brother MO had already left for a while. Why hadn't he returned yet? Could there have been an accident? Impossible, Brother MO is so strong, how could something happen to him? Happy missed Brother MO. He didn't know if Brother MO missed him. However, so what if he missed him? Brother MO is so strong, and I'm just a normal person. I'm also a mute girl who can't even speak. We're not from the same world at all. Sigh, not far away, Old Lee saw Happy's absent-minded expression and reminded him, "Happy, don't be so absent-minded when you're feeding the zombies later. Safety first." Happy turned his head around, smiled brightly, and nodded. Old Lee mumbled, "Seriously? Little MO has been gone for so many days, but he still hasn't returned." Sigh. As he spoke, he heard footsteps entering the courtyard. He looked up and saw MO Sure walking in. "You're finally back, kid. Ha 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 ha." Cough, 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 Old Lee coughed violently because of his excitement. Happy also quickly put down what he was doing and came out to welcome him. Although she couldn't speak, her face was filled with happiness. MO Sure could not help but feel warm in his heart. If there were anyone in the entire base who could treat him like family, there were only two people. One was Happy, and the other was Old Lee. He took a few steps forward and looked at Happy's happy face. He could not help but reach out and rub her hair until it was messy. Happy lowered her head in happiness. When the three of them met, it was like a family reunion. For the rest of the day, Happy was practically always by MO Sure's side. It was as if she was unwilling to leave him even a single step. Old Lee looked at the two of them and could not help but smile in relief. The next morning, MO Sure woke up. He looked at the system in his mind and saw that it had completed its upgrade. Upgrade complete. Upgrade reward, 1 drop of dragon will recovery potion. Upgrade reward, your personal storage has been upgraded. After upgrading, your personal storage can be opened at any place. At the same time, the storage has been expanded. It can hold 100,000 items. Upgrade reward, 1 piece of Great Dragon Scale Armor. After use, it can block 1 fatal attack. Note, ignores the opponent's level. Upgrade reward, Dragon Breath Pearl, strengthened. It can block the attacks of any level 10 Great Hunter, level 10 super mutated beast, or level 10 super mutated zombie. Immerse looked at the rewards and was secretly happy. His strength would increase rapidly, and it wouldn't be long before the enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl would be useless to him. However, he could use it to defend himself. This great dragon scale armor could ignore the opponent's level defense. It was already very powerful. Let alone a level 10 Great Hunter, even if the opponent was an existence that far surpassed a level 10 Great Hunter, it would still be impossible for them to kill him in one hit. Following that, more notifications appeared in his mind. Upgrade details. 1. The check-in reward system has been upgraded. Check-in reward can be increased by 100 times. There was not much to the upgrade this time. There was only one item. However, just this one item allowed Immerse to benefit a lot. Every time the check-in reward could be increased by 100 times. Then, the original 100 days to upgrade would only require 10 days. Immerse immediately spoke in his mind. System, select the Titan Dragon Blood Modification Potion and increase it by 100 times. The system quickly replied. Increasing it by 100 times will consume 1 million evolution points. Selecting a reward will consume 100,000 evolution points. This check-in will consume a total of 1 million evolution points. Please confirm if you want to check in. Immerse was already prepared for this. In general, the total evolution points required to check in did not increase by much. However, the time required was reduced to 1/10 of the original amount. In the end, he still profited a lot. He immediately replied in his mind, confirm. Instead of waiting for 90 million to be used up and then accumulating 1 billion, it would be better to clear out all the zombies in China while he still had a lot of evolution points. There were more than 1.5 billion zombies in China. Even if they were all normal zombies, he could still obtain 1.5 billion evolution points. Not to mention that there were many mutated zombies and super mutated zombies. Immerse planned to clear out all the zombies in China. While obtaining enough evolution points, it would also give all the humans in China a chance to breathe. Although he was not a saint, he was still a human. If all humans were dead, what was the point of him living alone in the world, facing zombies and mutant beasts all day long? Therefore, in terms of the bigger picture, he would help the humans if he could. However, before that, he had to go to the other 2 dragon ruins to sign in. Although there was still a king in the wilderness, he did not know what level it was. It was not really safe. However, Immerse was confident that with his dragon's shadow step speed of 10 kilometers per second, even if he could not defeat it, he could easily run away. Therefore, on the morning of the 10th day after Immerse returned to the base, he planned to leave. Before leaving, he gave the enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl to Happy. The enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl was the same size as the previous one. However, the flame inside was more fiery red. The dragon's shadow formed by the flame was also clearer. Happy, keep this pearl with you. Don't leave it at all times. Happy had seen how powerful the Dragon Breath Pearl was last time. He immediately nodded with a happy expression on his face. Brother Mo cares about me. Immerse took back Happy's original Dragon Breath Pearl and put it into his backpack. Perhaps he would need it in the future. At 10:00 in the morning, Immerse left the base. On the city wall, everyone looked at Immerse's back as he left, and all of them were silent. After the mysterious powerhouse left, they felt that the pressure on their bodies had increased by a lot. On the second day after Immerse left, something happened. A mutated zombie came to the entrance of the base. This mutated zombie was 3 meters tall. His face had been torn in many places. There were also many deep wounds on his body that showed his bones. Although these wounds were slowly healing, even after they healed, there would still be many sunken scars left. In his arms was a girl in her 20s. Do Xiaodo, who was guarding the city, could not help but be stunned when he saw the girl's face through the binoculars. Guojutao saw this and knew that something had happened. He also picked up the binoculars and looked. With one look, he could not help but be stunned. He saw that the mutated zombie was holding Yang Kang's daughter. Then this mutated zombie was Yang Kang, who had been injected with the Super X virus enhancer before. He actually managed to find his daughter and even managed to save her. Looking at the wounds on his body, he must have experienced many cruel battles. He saw that Yang Kang was screaming in pain at this time, running quickly. At the city gate, he put his daughter down. Looking at his daughter lovingly, his originally scarlet eyes revealed a gentle color. He reached out and wanted to hold his daughter's hand. However, when he saw that his hand was no longer a human hand, it was the sharp claws of a mutated zombie. He closed his eyes in pain. He slowly withdrew his hand. His daughter hugged Yang Kang's thick waist. "Dad, no matter what you become, I will always be your daughter." In Yang Kang's scarlet eyes, a tear quietly slipped down and dripped on his daughter's head. He squatted down and reached out to hug his daughter. For a long time, he did not want to let go. In his throat, he made a half-human, half-beast sound, "Will always be your father." After a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind. He gently pushed his daughter away. Then he faced the city wall and made a half-human, half-beast roar, "Kill me, quick, I can't hold on anymore." His daughter's tears seemed to have already dried up. She could only say, "Dad, no, don't leave me." On the city wall, Guojutao's eyes flashed. For a moment, he could not make up his mind. Yang Kang continued to make a half-human, half-beast roar, "Guojutao, quick, kill me, use your genetic weapon, quick." Chapter 132. With Yang Kang's current strength, normal bullets and rockets wouldn't be able to hurt him. Hearing this, Guojutao clenched his teeth. He jumped down from the city wall. Although his words and actions were feminine, he was definitely not feminine when it came to doing things. A genetic martial art had already condensed on his right arm. "No, Dad. Uncle Gua. Don't do it. Dad. You will be fine. Auntie Chen will definitely have a way. She is still waiting for you to go back. Dad. I know Auntie Chen likes you. You can live together when you go back. Dad, you must hold on." However, Yang Kang clenched his teeth. He hissed, "I know my own situation. Guojutao, why are you still in a daze? Kill me, now. Do you want me to call you Madame Gua?" Hearing this, Guojutao shook his head and said in pain, "Captain, you. Don't worry. I will take care of little Yen for you." Before he finished his words, he suddenly went forward and pulled Yang Kang's daughter to the side. At the same time, his genetic martial art instantly pierced Yang Kang's head. It instantly exploded on Yang Kang's head. Yang Kang's huge headless corpse fell to the ground. "Dad," Yang Kang's daughter let out a heart-wrenching scream. This scream reverberated in the empty wilderness. Guojutao, who was at the side, helplessly retracted his genetic martial art. He felt that his legs were going soft. Even in his dreams, he had never imagined that he would one day kill his former captain with his own hands. The corpse hunters and soldiers on the city wall were all moved by this. However, at this moment, tens of tentacles grew out of Yang Kang's badly mutilated head. These tentacles quickly intertwined like needles and threads, quickly stitching his head together. After the stitching, the head looked even uglier. However, at the next moment, Yang Kang's blood-red eyes suddenly opened. He then opened his mouth and let out a shocking roar. 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 He immediately pounced on his daughter who was closest to him. In just an instant, he pushed his daughter to the ground. He opened his huge mouth and bit his daughter's neck. Yang Kang's daughter's eyes were filled with tears as she shook her head. "Dad." When Yang Kang heard the word "Dad," he was stunned. His scarlet eyes seemed to have cleared up a little. However, this clear and turbid gaze was constantly alternating. Yang Kang's last shred of rationality wanted to suppress the bloodthirsty desire in his heart. A moment later, his last shred of rationality finally gained the upper hand. Seeing his daughter beneath him, he was shocked. He hurriedly jumped back 100 meters. Then, he shook his head in pain and used his last bit of reason to suppress the bloodthirsty desire in his heart. He turned around and fled into the wilderness. Since even genetic martial arts couldn't kill him, he could only stay away from his daughter. The further he was away from his daughter, the safer she would be. At this moment, a female voice came from the city gate. Yang Kang. Yang Kang stopped in his tracks. He turned around to look. Dr. Chen hurried over. In Yang Kang's eyes, clarity and turbidity alternated for a moment, and clarity once again took the upper hand. He didn't turn around and only let out a roar that was closer to that of a beast. Take good care of little Yen. Then, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He jumped and ran into the wilderness. At the city gate, Dr. Chen hugged little Yen tightly. Both of them couldn't stop their tears from flowing down. 5 days later, Immerse had already arrived at your province. The dragon ruins was not far away. Over the past 5 days, Immerse had killed a lot of monsters along the way. His evolution points were gradually approaching 100 million. However, after arriving here, he didn't directly go to the dragon ruins. He had just arrived and didn't know what the situation was like. Although his dragon will could detect up to 50 kilometers away, the mother nest Sanguisurincus could also detect up to 50 kilometers away. However, he was cautious by nature and naturally wouldn't go to the dragon ruins casually. There was a base more than 200 kilometers to the west of the dragon ruins. Base C10. Immerse planned to go to base C10 first to inquire about the situation at the dragon ruins. However, when he was 200 kilometers away from base C10, he used his dragon will to sweep across. He ran around the base 4 times. He cleared out all the zombies and mutated beasts within 200 kilometers of the base. There were a lot more zombies around base C10 compared to the other bases, and they were also a lot stronger. Normal zombies only accounted for 50% of the zombies. Mutated zombies accounted for 40%, and strong mutated zombies accounted for 10%. Therefore, after Immerse swept through the base 4 times, he obtained a lot more evolution points than before. He had actually reached 150 million. In the evening, Immerse used Dragon's Shadow Step to enter base C10 without being discovered by any of the guards. There were more than 100,000 people in base C10, so it was normal for the pedestrians to not know each other. Immerse walked on the road, but no one came to question him. He wandered around base C10 for more than half an hour. Immerse realized that base C10 had a lot more zombie hunters, and psychokinesis than the other bases. Out of 10 people walking on the road, 5 or 6 of them were zombie hunters. Based on this, base C10 should be the strongest among all the bases. However, Immerse could see the despair on everyone's face. He understood after thinking about it. The mutated beasts and zombies around base C10 were also a lot stronger than the other bases. If he didn't clear out those zombies and mutated beasts, it wouldn't be long before the zombies and mutated beasts attacked this place. Immerse planned to find an ordinary person to activate his telekinesis, and then ask about the nearby situation. At this time, a voice came from a faraway alley. "Little bastard, you dare to steal food in the cafeteria, how dare you?" Then, the sound of messy footsteps could be heard. Immerse used his telekinesis to investigate. He saw a boy of about 10 years old with tattered clothes and messy hair running towards him. His 2 dirty hands each held a steamed bun. As he ran, he took a big bite of the steamed bun. Behind him was a middle-aged man wearing a dirty apron who quickly chased after him. The middle-aged man's speed was very fast, he could cross 10 meters in 1 step. He should be a level 1 zombie hunter. In base C10, even the people who cooked in the cafeteria were zombie hunters. The middle-aged man arrived behind the child in a few steps. He grabbed the child's collar with one hand and lifted him into the air. Little bastard, the leader of the base has given the order. The base is short of food, now the adults get 2 steamed buns a day, and the children get 1 steamed bun a day. Do you want to die? As he spoke, he reached out to snatch the steamed bun in the child's hand. The child said vaguely, the adults get 2 steamed buns a day, why do you get 6? I saw it. As he spoke, he quickly opened his mouth and took a bite of the other steamed bun. The chef saw that the child had taken a bite of both steamed buns, and the steamed buns were full of black claw marks. He couldn't help but be furious. Damn it, you're so stubborn. I'll slap you to death. As he spoke, he swung his right hand and was about to slap the child's face. However, at this moment, he felt as if a huge invisible hand had suddenly grabbed him. He was thrown far away. He was thrown 70 to 80 meters away and immediately fainted. The child was thrown to the ground and looked back. He saw the unconscious chef 70 to 80 meters away. He couldn't help but be stunned. What the hell? Chapter 133. However, he couldn't care less right now. He quickly took a bite of the steamed bun, got up, and fled into the distance. Just as he turned the corner in front of him, he bumped into someone. Bang! He seemed to have hit a wall and fell backward to the ground. He rubbed his sore nose and quickly grabbed the steamed bun on the ground with his other hand. He didn't blow away the dust on it and just took big bites. After taking 2 bites, he looked at the person he had bumped into. It was a young man in his 20s. He was looking at him calmly. The child was stunned. This young man looked different from everyone else in the base. As for what was different, he couldn't tell. In short, he was very special. This was because he was too young and naturally couldn't sense the difference in the person who came. If he was a few years older, he would know that the person who came was different from the others in the base. He didn't have a trace of despair. Instead, he was calm, quiet, and aloof from worldly affairs. The person who came was naturally Immerse. He looked at the child with messy hair and tattered clothes and asked, "Where are your parents?" The child looked away from Immerse. He picked up another steamed bun. He took a bite and answered vaguely, "They're all dead." He said it very casually, as if he was talking about someone else. Immerse asked again, "What's your name?" The child ate too quickly and choked. He beat his chest hard and said after a while, "I don't have a name. Others call me Brat and some call me Brat." Immerse didn't say anything else. He activated his dragon's will and probed into the child's brain, stimulating his brain cells. The child only felt his head heat up and swell. In just over a minute, the feeling of heat and swelling disappeared. At this moment, he felt his mind clear and his eyes clear. Everything within a radius of 700 meters was as if he was seeing it with his own eyes. He could even see the trace of blood at the corner of the unconscious chef's mouth on the other side of the corner. Immerse said, "You're already at level 7 psychokinesis." With his current dragon's will, he could easily activate an ordinary person into level 7 psychokinesis. Of course, he had used this move on Happy before. But for some unknown reason, Happy still did not show any reaction. At that moment, the child looked at Immerse in disbelief. "I'm a psychic? Are you bragging?" At this moment, a dignified and unquestionable voice sounded in his mind. "Answer whatever I ask." The voice echoed in his mind like a thunderclap. His entire body couldn't help but tremble, and he hurriedly stood solemnly. He said respectfully, "All right." Immerse asked, "How many hunters, corpse hunters, and psychokinesis do you have in your base?" The child answered, "There are 373 hunters, more than 30,000 hunters, and 125 psychokinesis." Hearing this, Immerse thought to himself that this was indeed the case. Immerse asked again. 200 kilometers to the east of your base, there is a Fan's Pure Mountain. Who in your base knows the situation there best? The child replied, "I know Brahma's Pure Mountain the best." Immerse was a little surprised. Logically speaking, he had used the leader's will on the child, so the child would definitely not lie to him. But he was only a 10-year-old child, how could he possibly understand the situation over there the best? The child continued. Although I have never been to Brahma's Pure Mountain, I hang around the corpse hunter group every day, and I often hear them talk about Brahma's Pure Mountain. According to them, there is something very strange there. Immerse nodded and said, "Go on." The child continued. They said that there are blood-red vines growing on the mountain within a radius of more than 100 kilometers. The entire Brahma's Pure Mountain has become a blood-red mountain. There are also powerful mutated zombies and mutated beasts around Brahma's Pure Mountain. There are even many powerful mutated beasts and zombies. Immerse asked. Are there super mutated zombies? The child replied, I don't know. Immerse nodded, took out 2 pieces of fresh bread, and said to the child, eat this. Go to the corpse hunter group tomorrow and ask about Brahma's Pure Mountain. The child's eyes lit up when he saw the fresh bread. He had only seen bread once in his life in the base. At that time, he saw the corpse hunter group eating from afar, but he didn't know what it was. He took the bread excitedly and said to Immerse, thank you. Thank you. He ate it in big bites. In the next 2 days, Immerse activated 5 more people into level 7 psychokinesis. Among the 5 people, one was the deputy staff officer of the base. He learned a lot about Brahma's Pure Mountain from them. There should be a virus hive in Brahma's Pure Mountain. There was indeed a powerful mutated zombie that was far beyond level 10 around the virus hive. Immerse was sure that it was the level 3 super mutated zombie. After knowing this, he had a rough idea. That afternoon, he left base C10. With his strength, no one in base C10 could discover that he had left. He left base C10 and went to Brahma's Pure Mountain. Along the way, the trees and plants gradually turned blood red. He killed a lot of mutated zombies and mutated beasts along the way. After more than 10 minutes, he finally arrived at the foot of Brahma's Pure Mountain. He looked with his blood demon eyes. He saw the corpse aura on the mountain as if it was about to solidify. However, this corpse aura didn't make him feel scared. He put away his blood demon eyes and saw that all the trees on the mountain were covered with blood-red vines. The 10,000 steps cloud ladder that went up the mountain was also covered with blood vines that were as thick as an arm. When Immerse arrived, these sanguisurincus were like thousands of snakes, crawling toward Immerse. If it was before, Immerse could only fly. But now, his long way spread out. The sanguisurincus suddenly withered and fell to the ground. Immerse ran up the 10,000 step ladder. He didn't fly. His flying speed was only about 300 meters per second, which was much slower than his dragon's shadow step. Moreover, there was no cover in the sky. If he encountered a sudden attack, he wouldn't be able to dodge. It was safer to walk on the ground. As he ran up, there were naturally many strong zombies and mutated beasts blocking his way. There were no ordinary zombies on Brahma's Pure Mountain. Even the weakest ones were mutated zombies. However, for Immerse, he could get more evolution points this way. He went all the way up the mountain. Wherever the dragon thought passed, all the mutated zombies and mutated beasts would explode into a bloody mist. With his current strength as a level 3 Great Hunter and level 1 Long Nian, there was nothing on Brahma's Pure Mountain that could stop him. In just more than 10 minutes, he had reached the top of the mountain. There were 2 peaks on the top of the mountain. The tallest one was 94 meters high. It was tall and straight, like a huge stone pillar that rose from the ground. This was the Red Cloud Golden Peak. Chapter 134. At this time, the top of the Red Cloud Golden Peak was covered by blood-red vines. The road above the Red Cloud Golden Peak was almost vertical. It would take a lot of effort for ordinary people to climb up. Immerse used the dragon's shadow step and reached the top of the Golden Peak in 1 step. In the center of the Golden Peak, there was a huge crack that divided the golden peak into two from top to bottom. There was a small temple on each side, one for Sakyamuni and the other for Maitreya. They were connected by a bridge in the middle. Legend had it that this golden peak was originally a complete stone pillar. Sakyamuni and Maitreya both wanted to use it as a place of cultivation. The two Buddhas couldn't agree, so they went to the heavenly palace to complain. The Jade Emperor couldn't decide, so in the end, he used a golden saber to divide the golden peak into two, and the two Buddhas each took half. However, at base C2, the old monk said that the stone pillar was a dragon-suppressing nail. Mo sure didn't believe it when he heard it. But now he was somewhat convinced. He took out the map from his backpack and looked at it carefully. At the same time, he used his dragon sense to scan a radius of 50 kilometers. The terrain within 50 kilometers was similar to what was drawn on the map. The dragon ruins should be on this Brahma's pure mountain. Putting away the map, Mosher focused his gaze on the top of the mountain. The entire top of the mountain did look like a dragon's back. Below the red cloud golden peak was like a dragon's head. Below the old golden peak, opposite the red cloud golden peak, was like a dragon's back. The two golden peaks were the dragon suppressing nail. In the middle of the two golden peaks, there was a temple. It was the Qingzhen temple. It seemed that the Qingzhen temple was also to suppress the plague dragon. However, at this time, the entire outer wall of the Qingzhen temple was covered with Sanguisurincus. Above the Qingzhen temple, there were dozens of huge sarcomas with a diameter of 10 meters. Every sarcoma was pulsing rhythmically. The entire Qingzhen temple had been occupied by the virus and became a virus hive. Mo Sure used the flesh and blood of the zombies he just killed to condense a virus clone. He had the clone run toward the virus hive. The clone came near the hive and jumped onto the sarcoma on top of the hive. It slowly sank into the sarcoma and entered the hive. Inside the mother nest, the entire Qingzhen temple had been hollowed out, forming a huge blood pool. In the blood pool, there were dozens of powerful mutant zombies. They all looked like monks. These strong mutated zombies, after absorbing the blood from the blood pool, all of them grew to over 80 meters in height. They looked like giant blood-colored Buddhas. Their strength had reached the limit of level 10 strong mutant zombies. He was only one step away from becoming a super mutant zombie. However, in the end, he was still one step away. The virus clone used its psychokinesis to scan the area. SSSSS, rip, rip. All of the level 10 mutant zombies were torn into pieces. One must know that Mo Sher's virus clone had already reached level 10 psychokinesis. Dealing with these level 10 mutated zombies was like playing around. But at this moment, waves of blood began to rumble within the blood pool. The entire blood pool seemed to have become extremely unstable. A moment later, a human silhouette slowly emerged from the rolling waves of blood. This human silhouette did not have any skin on its body. The bloody flesh was exposed to the air. Its facial features also looked somewhat distorted. This corpse was the level 3 super mutant zombie that Mo Sure had seen in the mother nest's consciousness before. However, with the addition of the blood pool and the mother nest, its current combat power was close to that of a level 5 super mutant zombie. Facing Mo Sure's virus clone, its fists continuously pounded its bloody chest, causing flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. At the same time, it roared, roar, roar, a shockwave visible to the naked eye was suddenly emitted from its mouth. It spread towards the virus clone. The virus clone hurriedly used Dragon's Shadow Step to dodge. With one step, it stepped behind the super mutant zombie. Then, a genetic weapon appeared and directly slashed towards the back of the super mutant zombie. However, at this moment, his genetic weapon was directly grabbed by the super mutant zombie with one hand. It grabbed so accurately, as if this super mutant zombie had eyes at the back of its head. Looking up, Mo Sure could not help but be stunned. Didn't this guy have a face at the back of his head? In other words, this super mutant zombie had a face at the front and back. This super mutant zombie roared, "Lowly human, pitiful reptile, today I'll use your blood to replenish the blood pool." As it spoke, its hands suddenly tore. Rip, the body of the virus clone was directly torn into two halves. In the blood pool, dozens of tentacles suddenly stretched out, greedily devouring the flesh and blood of the virus clone. Immerse could also be considered to have experienced the feeling of being torn apart from the side. After the super mutant zombie tore the virus clone, it jumped out of the mother nest. On its back, a pair of huge demon wings slowly spread out. With a slight flap of its wings, it instantly covered more than 300 meters. It arrived in front of Immerse on the red cloud gold roof. It did not immediately make a move. Instead, it sized up Immerse from head to toe and let out a roar from its throat. "Lowly human, I haven't gone to find you yet, and you actually delivered yourself to me. Then, prepare to die." As it spoke, its right arm made a crackling sound and turned into a 100-meter-long sharp blade, directly slashing down towards Immerse. The huge sharp blade drew a semicircular arc in the air. Facing this guy whose strength was comparable to a level 5 super mutant zombie, Immerse did not dare to be negligent. With a light tap of his feet, he activated the dragon's shadow step. His figure instantly retreated 10 kilometers. The next moment, boom, the entire red cloud gold roof, which was more than 90 meters tall, suddenly collapsed under the zombie's blade. The super mutant zombie missed its attack and roared. Flapping its wings, it chased towards Immerse. However, just as it chased for more than 300 meters, suddenly, its expression changed drastically. The next moment, it retracted its wings. It instantly dived down towards the mother nest. Soon, it arrived at the top of the mother nest. It raised its arms abruptly. At the same time, the thousands of sanguisurincus around the mother nest, which were as thick as thighs, also rose instantly, forming a sanguisurincus shell, protecting the mother nest. Just at the moment when the sanguisurincus shell formed, boom, an invisible dragon's wool meteorite fell from the sky. It smashed down fiercely. Boom, the entire sanguisurincus shell was instantly shattered. Thousands of broken vines flew hundreds of meters away in all directions. A huge blood-red shockwave spread out. The blood-red trees around the broodmother's nest snapped one after another. Dragon's wool meteorite. Immerse knew that with the strength of this zombie, it was very likely that it would be able to dodge his dragon's wool meteorite. But it was alive, and the mother nest, although it was also alive, it could not move. So Immerse's dragon's wool meteorite directly smashed towards the mother nest. The mother nest was the foundation of all zombies. This super mutant zombie had to be saved, so it could only use its body to withstand the dragon's wool meteorite. At the top of the mother nest, the body of the super mutant zombie was pressed down, making cracking sounds. But it relied on the cushioning power of the sanguisurincus shell to withstand the telekinesis meteorite. However, the dozen sarcomas under its feet were shattered by the huge impact. Blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, its arms were also broken by the huge impact with a crack. Dozens of tentacles grew on its body. These tentacles quickly supported the top of its head. Thousands of tentacles stretched out from the blood pool and the mother nest. Together with him, they supported the invisible dragon's wool meteorite above its head. Then, it turned its head and roared angrily in the direction of Immerse. "Despicable human, I will tear you to pieces." However, its roar was only halfway through when it abruptly stopped. As if its neck was being strangled. Its grayish-white eyes were filled with fear as if it had seen a demon from hell. Chapter 135. The super mutant zombie let out an angry roar from its throat. This human was too despicable. He didn't dare to confront it head-on, so he sneakily attacked the nest. However, its roar was only halfway out before it stopped abruptly. Because it saw that the human was floating in the air. His right arm was stretched out, and his right hand was empty. It was as if he was waiting for someone to give him a weapon. The entire Brahma's Pure Mountain, and even within a radius of 10 kilometers around Brahma's Pure Mountain, all the zombies and mutant beasts had been killed. Their bodies exploded into a bloody mist that eventually stained the grass, the tree trunks, and the ground. However, at this moment, the blood seemed to be attracted by something. It slowly floated up into the sky. If someone was here at this time, they would see the phenomenon of the rain flying backward into the sky. However, this rain was blood-red rain. The blood rain flew into the sky. Finally, it all gathered in Immerse's empty right hand. In his right hand, the blood water slowly condensed into a substance. The outline of a long spear gradually appeared. Finally, it slowly condensed. The entire spear was about 3 meters long and completely blood-red. On the body of the spear, there were protrusions that looked like dragon claws. On both sides of the spearhead, there were sharp blades in the shape of dragon wings. The sharp blades flashed coldly under the sun. The entire spearhead was in the shape of a fist-sized dragon head. There were dozens of sharp barbs on the dragon head. The pair of dragons was so red that it could drip blood. Coupled with the sharp dragon teeth, it was exceptionally ferocious. The demon-devouring dragon spear. Finally, it was born again. And this time, the demon-devouring dragon spear gathered the blood of millions of infected people. Just the mighty long way emitted from the spear body caused all the sanguisurincus in the entire Brahma's pure mountain and within a radius of 50 kilometers to wither instantly. Even the super mutant zombie that had reached the combat strength of level 5 couldn't help but feel fear under the mighty long way. The tentacles beside it that were supporting the dragon meteorite quietly retracted into the nest at this time. Immerse held the blood-red demon-devouring dragon spear in his hand, and his cold eyes were covered with a layer of blood-red color, like an ancient demon god. At a certain moment, the dragon spear in his hand suddenly stabbed out. The demon-devouring dragon spear turned into a blood-red dragon. The dragon was 1,000 meters long. His wings were like the clouds in the sky. This pair of sharp claws was actually comparable to the red cloud golden dome from before. The scales on the blood-red dragon were distinct. Above the sunlight, there was a blood-red glow. The dragon head was like a small mountain. The huge mouth opened like a cave. It retracted its wings and swooped down. He charged straight for the mother nest. Even the super mutant zombie whose battle power had reached level 5 was filled with fear at this time. At a certain moment, he forcefully pushed the dragon wool meteorite away. He then turned around and fled into the distance. In the eyes of zombies, the mother nest was like their mother. Now, this super mutant zombie had abandoned the nest and escaped alone. It could be seen how much psychological pressure the giant dragon was exerting on him. However, could he escape? The 1,000-meter-long dragon swooped down. A pair of front claws grabbed the nest. Rumble, the entire Fan's pure mountain, which was more than 2,000 meters high, seemed to shake. The entire mother nest, along with the mountain ridge beneath it, was crushed. Countless boulders rolled down along the mountain ridge. As for the super mutant zombie, it was directly torn into two under this claw. The corpse was thrown far away. Ordinary super mutant zombies, with the support of the blood pool, could quickly recover even if their heads were blown up. But the demon-devouring dragon spear had a strong restraining effect on viruses. This super mutant zombie's body was torn into two parts, and its head was still intact, but it could not be restored. Before it died, it let out another roar. The king will not let you go. In the distance, the old golden dome shook twice under this violent vibration. Finally, it collapsed. The giant dragon spread its wings and soared into the sky. In an instant, it disappeared above the sea of clouds in the distance. Only a shocking dragon roar was left. Roar, within 100 kilometers. All the zombies and mutant beasts were terrified when they heard this dragon roar. They lay on the ground, shivering. Until now, Immerse slowly landed on the top of the mountain that had become a ruin. Even he was shocked by the power of the demon-devouring dragon spear. The demon-devouring dragon spear, which condensed the flesh and blood of millions of zombies, almost overturned the entire mountain peak with one claw. The power of the demon-devouring dragon spear was terrifying. But that super mutant zombie, with the support of the blood pool, was also quite strong. It could force him to use the demon-devouring dragon spear. Fortunately, he had taken care of that guy now. If there was anyone in the whole of Huaxia who could pose a threat to him, it would probably be the king. He did not know what the king's strength was. But from some of the information obtained from the mother nest, it was definitely a super mutant zombie that did not exceed level 10. With Immerse's strength, which was equivalent to a level 5 super mutant zombie, it would not be long before even if the king came, there was no need to be afraid of it. At this time, Immerse used the dragon's will to explore the ruins of the mother nest. He saw that there was indeed a crack hidden in the ruins of the mother nest. Immerse came to the entrance of the crack. He used the dragon's will to explore. It was still dark below. But through the dragon's will, it was not a narrow passage like the previous dragon's ruins. The bottom of the crack was empty. Under the dragon's will, it seemed that the entire Brahma's pure mountain, which was more than 2,000 meters high, was hollow. There did not seem to be any danger inside. But he did not go down immediately. Instead, he used his mind to directly place the virtual sentry tower under the crack. What if there was danger that the dragon's will could not detect? After the virtual sentry tower was set up, there was no alarm sound. Immerse condensed another virus clone. He let the clone jump down into the crack. He observed the entire huge cave through the clone's perspective. He saw that this huge cave was about 1,000 meters long. It was 700 to 800 meters wide. On the top of the cave, there were stalactites of various shapes hanging upside down. On the ground, there were large pieces of stone. If one looked carefully, they would find that these were not ordinary stones. Each piece contained the bones of an animal. Obviously, these were all fossils. If all the stones were connected, the entire fossil could be pieced together to form a skeleton fossil about 1,000 meters long. Although the fossilized skeleton seemed to be incomplete in many places, it was still not complete. But one could roughly see the overall shape. A huge skull, ribs, a tailbone that was hundreds of meters long, and a few claw bones. There was also a pair of huge wing bones. Giant dragon fossil. Even though Immerse was only seeing all of this through the virus clone's perspective, he was extremely shocked. There really were giant dragons in the world. And their bodies had actually reached 1,000 meters long. The head of the giant dragon skeleton fossil was pierced through by a huge stalactite that was more than 300 meters long and more than 10 meters thick. The heart was also pierced through by a huge stalactite. According to the position of these two stalactites, they were below the red cloud Golden Peak and the old Golden Peak. It seemed that the dragon subduing mountain, dragon suppressing nail, that the old monk had mentioned was actually true. Chapter 136. Sign in at 136 Dragon Ruins again. Level 2 Long Nian sure the virus clone probed the dragon ruins for a while, but there was still no danger. Only then did Immerse enter the crack. After descending for about 1,000 meters, he landed on the ground. Dragons will instantly spread out in all directions. After confirming that there was no danger around, only then did Immerse open his mouth. System, sign in. Just like before, the system replied instantly frowny face sign in successful. Sign in location, Dragon Ruins, sign in reward, 1, Blood Wings, sign in reward, 2, Invulnerable Body, sign in reward, 3, Virus 0, sign in reward, 4, Dragons will devour. Immerse carefully checked these rewards in his mind. Blood Wings, and Dragons will devour, were skills. Blood Wings was a flying skill. Dragons will devour was a skill that devoured dragons will. Devouring the enemy's dragons will to improve one's own dragon's will. Moreover, this devouring dragons will could ignore the other party's dragons will level. Immerse shook his head and smiled bitterly. This skill looked very impressive. But it was actually useless. There was no other Long Nian on Earth now, so who could he devour? As for the Virus 0 and the Invulnerable Body, they were very impressive. Virus 0 was considered a virus seed. Place it on a certain creature and activate it with dragon's will. It could quickly infect any creature in the surroundings. Animals, humans, and plants wouldn't be spared. Moreover, it would mutate rapidly. No matter how fast the vaccine was developed, it wouldn't be able to keep up with the speed of its mutation. In other words, once it was placed, one could only wait to be infected. Unless one had an invulnerable body. If one wanted to destroy a country, using this virus 0 was the most suitable. Invulnerable body directly strengthened Immerse's body, making it invulnerable to all poisons. Even the virus 0 couldn't infect him. One sign in, for rewards. Although it wasn't as much as the previous time, Immerse was already satisfied. And don't forget, above the dragon ruins was the virus hive. At special locations, he could sign again. Immerse took one last look around and planned to leave the dragon ruins to sign in at the hive above. However, right at this moment, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. In the next moment, his expression changed drastically. An earth-shattering pressure pressed down on him from all directions. Immerse knew something was wrong. This was the will of a dragon. To think that dragon will still existed here. This enormous draconic will was dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than Immerse's draconic will. The dragon will pressed down on his body, making him unable to move at all. His draconic will wanted to extend out of his body to resist, but it was also firmly suppressed in his body. He couldn't extend it out at all. Moreover, that incomparably huge dragon will actually bore directly into Immerse's body. Immerse sighed helplessly. Since he couldn't resist, he could only enjoy it. He immediately gave up resisting. He retracted his dragon will. The mountainous dragon will immediately invaded his body. This dragon will was very domineering. After entering his body, it directly charged towards his brain. It wanted to take over the magpie's nest. Possession. At the same time, a hoarse laughter rang out in Immerse's mind. Ha 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 ha. I've waited for tens of thousands of years, and I've finally waited for a body that can bear my enormous draconic will. It turned out that this enormous draconic will was the draconic will of the plague dragon that was once suppressed here. The plague dragon's draconic will was unimaginably huge. Although its body was suppressed, its draconic will had always been left behind. After tens of thousands of years, most of the draconic will had been consumed. The remaining draconic will was less than 1/10,000th of what it used to be. However, even this little bit of draconic will was not something that an earthling's brain could bear. Therefore, it had been trapped in the dragon ruins for so many years. And now, Immerse, a human whose brain had been strengthened by the modification liquid, had finally appeared. He could barely bear this enormous draconic will that was less than 1/10,000th of it. Therefore, the plague dragon used its draconic will to invade Immerse's body, intending to possess him. The plague dragon's hoarse voice kept ringing in Immerse's mind. Kid, you're a lowly human. On this barren planet, you can actually give birth to draconic will. You can be considered a genius. Furthermore, your body is actually the undying body of 10,000 poisons. It's even more amazing. If you were placed on any planet in the universe, you would be above any genius. If you don't die prematurely, you can also become an overlord in the universe in the future. It's a pity that you met me. Your talent, your immortal body, they're all taken advantage of by me. Ha 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 ha. At this point, the domineering draconic will suddenly enveloped Immerse's brain completely. It began to madly invade all of his brain cells. It wanted to devour Immerse's draconic will and occupy his body. It was not worried at all that Immerse would resist. Compared to it, Immerse's draconic will was not even worth mentioning. However, at this moment, Immerse's seemingly inconspicuous draconic will seemed to form an invisible giant mouth in an instant. This giant mouth seemed to be able to swallow the sky and devour the earth. It could devour everything in the universe. In just an instant, it was about to devour the draconic will of the plague dragon. At this moment, the plague dragon's hoarse laughter came to an abrupt end. Then, its voice was filled with extreme fear and disbelief. No, how is this possible? How did your draconic will suddenly become so powerful? No, in the end, amidst the plague dragon's hoarse cries, its draconic will was completely devoured. It turned into Immerse's draconic will. Immerse rubbed his swollen temples and shook his head. Why do you have to do this? He finally understood why the system gave him the draconic will devour skill. It was to devour the plague dragon's draconic will. As expected, the system's products all had their own purposes. The plague dragon's remnant draconic will was 100 times stronger than Immerse's draconic will. However, the draconic will devour skill was that it ignored levels. Even if you were the most powerful draconic will in the universe, Immerse could easily devour you if he wanted to. Of course, whether he could withstand it after devouring was another matter. Fortunately, Immerse was still able to withstand the plague dragon's remnant draconic will. Moreover, at this moment, a system notification appeared in his mind. Devoured plague dragon's remnant draconic will. Draconic will increased by 1 level. He then looked at his attribute interface. Name, Immerse, Level 3 Hunter, Level 2 Long Nian, Evolution Path, Titan Dragon. Seeing this, Immerse could not help but feel a little excited. When he became a Long Nian, he knew that it was extremely difficult to increase his draconic will. Even if he had the system, it would not be so easy. Therefore, he first increased his level to a Great Hunter. However, he did not expect this plague dragon to take the initiative to come to him. Moreover, it came to him very forcefully, so forcefully that he could not even resist. There was no other way. Since he could not resist, he could only lie down and enjoy it. At this moment, Immerse could feel it. With his level 2 Long Nian strength, even if he encountered a level 4 psychic master, he could easily crush him. Chapter 137. 137 Human-headed spider Immerse's dragon will rose to level 2. He was overjoyed, but also a little disappointed. The plague dragon's remaining dragon will was only this much. Otherwise, wouldn't he be able to level up several times after this devouring? But then again, if the draconic will he devoured was too strong, wouldn't his brain explode from the overload? He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. After all, there wouldn't be any other Long Nian on Earth. Then, he tried to check the plague dragon's memory. However, after searching through the dragon will he just devoured, he couldn't find the plague dragon's memory at all. It seemed that the plague dragon was very cunning. The moment it was devoured, it actually destroyed its memory. As for why it would destroy its memory when it was about to die, Immerse guessed that it might have a big secret in its heart. However, Immerse couldn't find out where to start, so he stopped thinking about it. He looked around. There was nothing else here that was worth his attention. He first put away the virtual sentry tower. The reason why the sentry tower didn't alert him before was probably because it could only detect physical dangers. It shouldn't be able to detect telekinesis and other dangers. He raised his head and looked at the 1,000-meter-tall crack. He focused his mind. On his back, a ball of blood-red energy slowly appeared. This blood-red energy was like a blood mist at first, floating slowly without any pattern. However, gradually, the blood mist slowly gathered on his back and formed the shape of a pair of huge wings. This pair of wings was about 6 meters wide. It didn't have a physical body. It was just the outline of a wing formed by the blood-red energy. When he reached out to touch the blood-red wings, his hand went straight through the wings. He couldn't feel any physical body. Energy materialization? Immerse was slightly confused. After all, he had power in his body, but no energy. The Titan Dragon modification fluid could modify his cells, but it couldn't make his body produce energy. How could his body suddenly produce energy? The system answered and explained, the plague dragon's dragon will contains a trace of its former energy. Otherwise, its dragon will would have been exhausted. Immerse nodded. I see. Then how long can this little bit of energy keep me flying? The system replied. With the host's current flying speed and energy consumption, this energy is enough for the host to fly continuously for 5 years and 7 months. When Immerse heard this, he was speechless. Good housework. The remnant energy of the plague dragon after tens of thousands of years was enough for him to fly for more than 5 years. How strong was the plague dragon in the past? Would he be as strong as the Titan dragon after evolving into a Titan dragon? Immerse couldn't help but be fascinated by this. At this moment, his mind moved. The pair of blood-red wings that were 6 meters wide did not flap. There was only a slight tremor. In the next moment, Immerse's figure instantly left the ground. In just half a second, he broke through the sound barrier. Bang! A sonic boom came from behind. After breaking through the sound barrier, his speed increased greatly. In an instant, he rushed out of the crack and soared into the sky. In just 5 seconds, he arrived at an altitude of 5,000 meters. The speed of the blood wings had reached 1,000 meters per second. Although it was not as fast as the dragon's shadow step, it was much faster than any human, zombie, or mutant beast on Earth. With a thought, Zhang Xian's wings trembled slightly. Then, he returned to the ground. The wings turned into energy and retracted back into his body from his back. Compared to the previous wings, the blood wings had another advantage, which was that he didn't have to take off his clothes. Imagine if there was an urgent matter that needed to be solved. If you said, "Wait, I'll take off my clothes first." Wouldn't that be awkward? At this moment, he returned to the top of Brahma's pure mountain. Immerse looked at the broodmother nest that had been destroyed long ago and said, "System, sign in at a special location." The system's voice sounded. Sign in successful. Sign in location, virus hive. Sign in reward, virus clone X10. In other words, Immerse could now condense 10 virus clones at once. The system's rewards were getting more and more generous. After signing in, Immerse condensed 10 virus clones. Now, whether it was his dragon sense or great hunter level, they had both greatly improved. These 10 virus clones were all level 1 Long Mian Shi and level 1 Great Hunter. It must be known that when Immerse was only level 1 Long Mian Shi and level 1 Great Hunter, there was nothing in the entire Huaxia that could kill him. Now, he had killed that level 3 super mutated zombie. Then, each of the clones here could do whatever they wanted in Huaxia. Not to mention 10 clones. The only thing to worry about was that, King Immerse issued an order to these clones. Search and kill infected creatures in the entire Huaxia area. There was no distance limit for the virus clones. Therefore, no matter where these virus clones went, they would still be controlled by Immerse. Moreover, when these virus clones killed infected creatures, the evolution points obtained would also be counted to Immerse. In this way, he could continue to stay in the base. Let these virus clones earn evolution points for him. Of course, he had an important purpose for letting these clones search and kill infected creatures, to find that king. That king still hadn't appeared. Just now, in the consciousness of the mother nest, he only saw a vague outline. He didn't know how strong it was. If it didn't appear, Immerse wouldn't feel at ease. Therefore, he wanted to use these virus clones to force that king out. After the virus clones left, Immerse once again formed the blood-red wings. His wings trembled slightly as he flew towards base C10, which was more than 200 kilometers away. He planned to rest here for a day and then return to base C1. Now, he had the 10 virus clones to help him collect evolution points. Then, he would be able to live a peaceful and carefree life in base C1. After returning to base C10, Immerse stayed in the house of a corpse keeper that was blessed by his dragon's will. Dragon's will swept across and covered a radius of 100 kilometers. After Dragon's will reached level 2, it could completely detect the situation within a radius of 100 kilometers. On the sentry tower of the base, 2 soldiers were chatting. From yesterday to today, the number of zombies outside seems to have decreased a lot. There are also fewer mutated beasts. It's not that they've decreased a lot, they're all gone. Strange, weren't those zombies gathering before to launch a general attack on our base? Why are they all gone suddenly? Who knows? In today's world, there are all kinds of mutated beasts, mutated zombies, and even super-mutated zombies. I don't even know if they'll be able to see the sun tomorrow. Sigh, you're right. Office of the Chief of Base C-10. The chief looked at the report that the leader of the corpse hunters just sent. He frowned slightly. All the zombies and mutated beasts have disappeared? The leader of the corpse hunters was happy and nodded. Yes, Chief. Since the apocalypse, this is the first time this has happened. The chief pondered for a moment and frowned. Do you think this is the calm before the storm? When the leader of the corpse hunters heard this, the joy on his face suddenly froze. Then he said solemnly, Chief, you mean, they're going to launch a general attack? Chapter 138. Now, he had 10 virus clones that helped Immerse farm evolution points all over the country. Immerse's pace could slow down and he no longer needed to kill in the wilderness. After returning to base C-10, he went to a mechanic's house that he had blessed with telekinesis. Lying on the bed, Immerse could not help but smile as he looked at the evolution points in his mind. For the next few days, he would need to spend 1 million evolution points to check Indiana. However, the 10 virus doppelgangers gave him more than 10 million evolution points every day. This was really earning money while lying at home. At the same time, the necromancers and necromancers of base C-10 were all pleasantly surprised. The zombies and mutated beasts around base C-10 seemed to have disappeared overnight. At first, they were worried that this was the last calm before the storm. However, even after a few days, there was still no storm. They sent out a hunting group to investigate the situation near the base. In the end, they discovered that there was not a single zombie or mutated beast within 200 kilometers of the base. When this news spread, the entire base was in jubilation. It must be known that in the past half a year, the mutated beasts and zombies had become stronger and stronger. They wanted to escape base C-10, but there was still no news from the scouting teams they sent out. A layer of haze shrouded everyone's heart. It had been a long time since anyone smiled. Now, smiles finally returned to people's faces. Strange, it's as if all the infected creatures disappeared overnight. Could it be that after all these years of praying to Buddha, Buddha has appeared? Bullshit, there must be a reason behind this. I heard from my cousin in the hunting group that when they went out to investigate, they saw a human killing those infected creatures. Going alone to kill the infected creatures? Is this true? It's fine if you don't believe me. My cousin also said that according to their captain, that person's strength has probably reached level 10 hunter. At the same time, in the base chief's office, the third captain of the hunting group had just finished his report to the chief. The chief's face showed a hint of surprise. You're saying that there is a mysterious strong person killing infected creatures alone in the wilderness? The third captain nodded. Yes. Judging from his skills, he's not just a level 10 hunter, but also a level 10 psychokinesis. When the third captain said this, a look of surprise appeared on his face. The bureau chief asked in shock, Hunter and psychokinesis? And they've all reached level 10? Up until now, there had never been a level 10 hunter or psychokinesis in their base. No one had ever been a hunter and psychokinesis at the same time. Not only was this person a hunter and psychokinesis at the same time, both of them had reached level 10. How could such a human exist? This completely overturned their previous understanding. The third captain replied, Chief, we can't believe it either. But that is what we see. That human killed his way into a city all by himself. Any zombie that dares to approach within 1,000 meters of it will explode into a cloud of blood mist. It only took him a little more than an hour to clear all the zombies in the city. The chief of the base looked at the third captain. The third captain had always been trustworthy. Since he said so, it must be the truth. However, everything he said was simply too unbelievable. After a while, the chief spoke again. You didn't see his face clearly? The third captain nodded. He was too far away at that time. We only saw a blurry figure. Later, he seemed to have noticed us, but he didn't come over. After killing those infected creatures, he went into the depths of the wilderness. The chief said in surprise, so, this mysterious person can come and go freely in the wilderness where infected creatures run rampant? The third captain also said in surprise, I think so. To be strong enough to come and go freely in the wilderness, this was almost everyone's dream. However, the reason why the word dream was added to it was because it was simply impossible to realize. But now, someone had really achieved it. How could they not be fascinated by this? At the same time, the same thing was happening in the other bases. C3, C4, C5, in the whole of Huaxia, except for C1 and C2, mysterious people began to appear around the other 7 bases. The mysterious people cleared the zombies and infected creatures around their bases. People felt as if they had seen their savior. Since the apocalypse, people had been facing the pressure of death for a long time. Especially in recent years, the speed at which mutated beasts and zombies became stronger had far exceeded that of humans. In other countries, more than 10 bases had been breached. Millions of survivors were infected or died. This made the whole world fall into despair. But now, a mysterious person suddenly appeared, alone, and could run rampant in the wilderness. How could they not be excited? Many people were grateful to the mysterious person. Many people prayed for the mysterious person every day. They hoped that he could live a long life. They hoped that he could kill all the infected creatures. Mo sure didn't care about these. He had seen through human nature long ago. Don't think that if you help others, they will be grateful to you for the rest of their lives. Maybe tomorrow, there will be a greater temptation, and they will forget about you. Take a simple example. Your friend will always ask you to borrow money. If you lend him the first 9 times, he will be grateful. But if you need money for the 10th time and don't lend him money, then you will have offended him. Grumbling in your heart is light. If it's serious, they will even say that you are not loyal and not a friend. Thus, Mo sure didn't expect humans to be grateful to him when he cleaned up these zombies. After all, he only wanted to obtain more evolution points. On this basis, he could help humans in a big way, allowing human civilization to continue. However, there will always be changes in everything. On this day, Mo sure was looking at the evolution points in his mind. Suddenly, he felt a trace of danger approaching. This trace of danger was not approaching him, but one of the virus clones. This clone was currently near Qinshe Hills. Mo sure looked around through the virus clone's point of view. Not far behind him, there was a green-faced zombie figurine that was staring at the virus clone. Mo sure was suspicious. Blood demon eye opened. The attributes of the green-faced zombie figurine immediately appeared in his mind. Species, zombie figurine, level 10 strong mutation. Mo sure frowned. Zombie figurine? Zombies really exist in this world? The system's explanation came frowny-faced. The so-called zombies are actually people infected with another type of virus. Mo sure nodded, this made sense. But there was one point. Even if this was a zombie figurine, it was only a level 10 strong mutation zombie. It should not be a threat to his clone. Why did he still feel a sense of danger? Chapter 139. This green-faced zombie terracotta was only a level 10 mutated zombie. It was impossible for Mo sure to feel threatened by it. While he was still in doubt, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him without any warning. The long sword in his hand instantly drew a ray of light. In the next moment, the virus clone was split into 2 from the middle. It fell to the 2 sides. It was also at this moment that Immerse saw the figure clearly. A black dragon robe. A crown on his head. A bronze sword in his hand. Although his face was strangely black, just like the green-faced zombie terracotta. But this face's eyebrows, nose, eyes, and whiskers were almost identical to the restored Qin Shi Huang that he saw in his previous life. Qin Shi Huang? Immerse couldn't help but ask doubtfully. Qin Shi Huang was resurrected? And he was resurrected as a zombie. The king that he heard from the zombies for a long time was Qin Shi Huang? Thinking about the missing terracotta warriors in the museum, Immerse made a rough guess. He had read some history books before. The book said that Qin Shi Huang was in pursuit of immortality and sent the necromancer Su Fu overseas to search for the elixir of immortality. Su Fu went and never returned. Could it be that Su Fu had already returned? And the method of immortality he sought was to be infected with the zombie virus and live forever through the zombie method? When Qin Shi Huang ordered the craftsmen to create terracotta warriors, he was actually creating zombie terracotta warriors. In the end, even Qin Shi Huang himself was made into a zombie terracotta warrior. Although Immerse felt that this speculation was ridiculous. But looking at all aspects, this was the only reasonable explanation. It seemed that Qin Shi Huang should be the king that the zombies were talking about. The zombie virus in his body and the virus X in the zombies were two completely different viruses. Thus, even from the consciousness of the mother nest, he couldn't get much information about Qin Shi Huang. Unfortunately, the zombie terracotta warrior appeared too quickly and he didn't have time to see its level. Immerse asked in his mind, "System, is the level system of zombies the same as zombies?" The system replied, "Frowny face zombies are also divided into normal zombies, mutated zombies, strong mutated zombies, and super mutated zombies." Immerse pondered for a moment, and a thought flashed through his mind. He gave the order to the other 9 virus clones. All avatars, hurry to Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Check the level of Qin Shi Huang's zombies. In the next moment, all the clones rushed to Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Finding out the level of Qin Shi Huang's zombie was the most important thing at the moment. Just as Immerse sent those virus clones to rush to Emperor Qin's mausoleum, something happened at base C10 again. It rained continuously for a few days. That morning, the dark clouds in the sky finally dispersed. Immerse finished his breakfast and walked out of the room. Seeing that there was no one around, he activated the blood demon's eye. He scanned his surroundings. His brows furrowed slightly as he took a look. He had already cleaned up the infected creatures around base C10. However, when he looked around with his blood demon eyes, he realized that the fog around the base was filled with corpse energy. The corpse chi blotted out the sky. And it was quickly spreading toward the base. Immerse probed with his draconic will. After probing, he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. He saw that in the fog around the base, there were thousands of mutated spiders running quickly. However, under the observation of his blood demon eyes, he realized that the level of these mutated spiders wasn't too high. They were all mutated beasts below level 10. However, there were too many of them. After a rough scan, he estimated that there were about 1 million of them. There were more than 1 million of them, and all of them were mutated spiders around level 5. Immerse was very puzzled. Where did so many mutated spiders come from? However, based on the principle of not thinking about it if he couldn't figure it out, he didn't dwell on this matter. Since they were here to give him evolution points. Immediately, he moved his telekinesis and ordered the 6 people in the base who had been activated by him to rush to the base's surrounding walls. After he returned from Brahma's pure mountain, his draconic will had reached level 2. Therefore, he strengthened the telekinesis of these 6 people again. Their telekinesis had now reached level 8. It should be known that previously in base C10, the strongest psychokinesis was only level 6. The psychokinesis strengthened by Immerse was already an invincible existence in the entire base. At this time, under the third wall of the base, a group of soldiers was chatting. What AF * King Fog? If mutated beasts or zombies suddenly attack at this time, won't we be caught off guard? Another soldier glared at him. The mysterious elite has already cleaned up all the infected creatures within 100 kilometers of the base. Where would the zombies and mutated beasts come from? The third soldier also said, "Don't jinx it again. The mysterious elite has helped us clean up the infected creatures. Now, guarding the base has become the safest and most leisurely job. We should enjoy it." Just as he said this, suddenly, a black shadow jumped down from above the wall. It directly pounced on the face of the soldier who spoke. The soldier immediately cursed, F***CK. He quickly wanted to push the thing on his face away. However, it was too late. One of the sharp needle-like legs of that thing had already pierced his throat. It was only now that everyone saw the thing clearly. They saw that it was a mutated spider the size of a human head. Originally, mutated spiders weren't too scary. They had killed many of them when they were guarding the base. However, this mutated spider made all of their hair stand on end. Because the body of this mutated spider was actually a human head. 8 long, slender, and sharp legs grew out of its head. Just one look at this strange scene was enough to send chills down one's spine and make one's scalp numb. When the surrounding soldiers saw this scene, they quickly raised their guns and fired at the mutated spider. The mutated spider was shot until blood splattered everywhere. Even so, it still used its slender legs to stab a soldier's leg. That was why it was killed. The group of soldiers looked at each other, their hearts trembling. Because their 2 companions who were stabbed to death and injured were already showing signs of zombification. Their skin began to turn greenish-black. Their eyeballs began to turn white. But this wasn't the most terrifying thing. When these soldiers' attention was on their companions who were about to turn into zombies, they heard a rustling sound coming from above the wall. They looked up. With one look, everyone suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. They saw a row of mutated spiders on top of the wall. Each of the mutated spiders had a human head and 8 legs. Chapter 140. The entire C-10 base was shrouded in thick fog. Under the cover of the thick fog, millions of human-headed spiders surrounded the entire base. In the base, the sound of alarms suddenly rang out. All the soldiers, zombie hunters, and zombie hunters headed toward the wall. They tried to stop these human-headed spiders. But there were too many human-headed spiders. In comparison, the tens of thousands of people in the zombie hunters group were insignificant. Even if their psychokinesis could kill a large number of human-headed spiders. Even their hunters' genetic martial arts could kill a large number of human-headed spiders. But these human-headed spiders came from all directions. The zombie hunters group didn't have enough manpower. And the ordinary soldiers' damage to the human-headed spiders was extremely limited. So, there were constantly human-headed spiders that slipped through the net and crawled into the base. In the base, they began to massacre civilians. In the repair shop, 4 human-headed spiders crawled in and injured more than 10 people. Those 10 people quickly turned into zombies. The entire repair shop was in chaos. All the workers fled as if they had gone crazy. However, there was a worker who went against the flow. He went towards the mutated zombies with human-headed spiders. A person beside him pulled that person and shouted, "Old he, run!" However, Old he didn't run. Instead, he shook off that person's hand. Then, he used his level 8 psychokinesis. In the repair shop, all the wrenches, screwdrivers, iron wires, they converged into a giant steel python. It flew towards the zombies and human-headed spiders. Soon, the giant python opened its mouth and swallowed the zombies and human-headed spiders. Crack, crack, an ear-piercing sound came from the python's stomach. Then, blood and flesh splattered out of the giant python's stomach. The steel python followed the repairman and walked out of the repair area. When it saw the zombies and human-headed spiders, it swallowed them in big mouths. When the other mechanics saw this scene, they were all extremely shocked. Old he is. Psychokinesis. It seems to be even stronger than the other psychokinesis in the base. F***ck, this old he hit it really well. At the edge of the wall. A psychokinesis from the zombie hunters group was using throwing knives to surround the human-headed spider. However, there were simply too many human-headed spiders. The other psychokinesis patients were scattered throughout the base. With his psychokinesis, there was no way he could block it. He watched as the human-headed spiders escaped his flying daggers and rushed into the base. A sense of helplessness rose in his heart. At this moment, he saw a dirty child of about 10 years old walking towards him. He hurriedly shouted, "Little brat, run. Find a place to hide." However, not only did the little ghost not run away, but it also charged towards the human-headed spider. When the dozens of human-headed spiders saw the boy, they immediately let out a zh sound and pounced on the boy. However, at this moment, a shocking scene occurred. All of the human-headed spiders within an 800-meter radius of the boy let out a loud bang at the same time. It exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Then, the dozens of zombies that were pouncing on the boy also exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. Psychokinesis. The psychokinesis, who was already in despair, was even more shocked. This brat was actually a psychokinesis. It was rare for a child to be a psychokinesis. However, this brat's telekinesis was clearly much stronger than his. Based on the range of his telekinesis, he was actually a level 8 psychokinesis. This was simply too unbelievable. One had to know that the strongest person in the base was only a level 6 psychokinesis. A 10-year-old child was actually a level 8 psychokinesis. Even if he started training in his father's body when he was still a tadpole, it was impossible for him to rise so quickly. At the same time, similar scenes were playing out in 4 other places in the base. Immerse did not participate. With the addition of these 6 level 8 psychokinesis, it was not a problem to defend the base. For these newly promoted level 8 psychokinesis, this was also a chance to train. Moreover, these 6 level 8 psychokinesis were under the control of their leader's will. The evolution points they obtained from killing the infected creatures were also counted on their own heads. Even if these level 8 psychokinesis only killed half of the 1 million human-headed spiders, they would still obtain more than 200 million evolution points. As for Immerse, his attention was focused on a place 50 kilometers away. Although the sky was covered in fog, the visibility for normal people was less than 10 meters. However, Immerse's blood demon eyes could see through the fog and look towards the southeast 50 kilometers away. That was the direction of Tianmen Mountain. At this time, Tianmen Mountain was filled with corpse energy. It almost covered the entire Tianmen Mountain. A few days ago, when Immerse was cleaning up the infected creatures, he also cleaned up Tianmen Mountain. Logically speaking, it was impossible for such a large amount of corpse energy to gather here in such a short time. There must be something strange. He used his draconic sense to investigate. Then, he saw a hair-raising scene. On Tianmen Mountain, there was a huge natural karst cave. It was like a gate to the heavens embedded in the canopy of the sky. In front of Tianmen Mountain, there was a stairway to heaven with 999 steps. At this time, the entire Tianmen Mountain was woven with a huge blood-red spider web. In the middle of the spider web, there was a huge human-headed spider. This human-headed spider's head was more than 30 meters long. Each of its legs was more than 40 meters long. Just by relying on its body alone, it almost completely blocked the huge heavenly gate cave. With the help of the blood demon's eyes, Immerse could clearly see its level. A level 1 mutated beast. This was the first time in his life that he saw a mutated beast. At this time, hundreds of holes with a diameter of 5 meters appeared on the 999 steps in front of the heavenly gate cave. Every hole was bottomless. Above the holes, there was an endless stream of human-headed spiders crawling out. These human-headed spiders formed a long line of human-headed spiders and headed towards base C10. When Immerse saw this scene, he thought to himself, so that's how it is. The last time he passed by here, these spiders should still be hiding underground. At this moment, his draconic sense trembled slightly. Bang! Almost at the same time, all the human-headed spiders on the stairway to heaven and the human-headed spiders heading towards base C10 exploded into a cloud of blood mist. This blood mist extended from the stairway to heaven for 50 kilometers and arrived at the wall of base C10. It formed a 50-kilometer-long blood mist belt. With this, Immerse's evolution points increased by more than 10 million. On the blood-red spider web on Tianmen Mountain, when the human-headed spider king saw this, it immediately opened its huge mouth in grief and indignation. It let out a heart-wrenching cry. Squeak, 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 squeak. Chapter 141. Immerse's dragons will shook slightly, and thousands of human-headed spiders exploded. In the blood-red spider web above Tianmen Cave, the human-headed spider king suddenly let out a sorrowful cry. Squeak, 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 squeak. However, in the next moment, it was as if a huge invisible meteorite had smashed into Tianmen Cave. Rumble, the entire Tianmen Cave collapsed. The human-headed spider king's reaction was also very fast. The moment Tianmen Cave collapsed, it jumped down from the blood-red spider web. It burrowed into a crack in the belly of Tianmen Mountain. However, this was just the beginning. Boom 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 boom, 9 dragons will meteorites with a diameter of 100 meters smashed into Tianmen Mountain at almost the same time. After dragons will advance to level 2, Immerse could condense 10 dragons will meteorites at the same time. 9 dragons will meteorites smashed down at the same time. A huge shockwave spread out brazenly. Although dragons will had no heat, when the mountain was crushed by the huge pressure, it still exploded with a huge amount of energy. The shockwave uprooted all the trees within a radius of more than 10 kilometers. When the shockwave dissipated, the 2-square-kilometer mountaintop had long disappeared. The entire Tianmen Mountain had been blasted into a pile of ruins. As for the human-headed spider king, it had long been blasted into pieces. The power of the dragons will meteorites was actually so terrifying. The most terrifying thing was that Immerse had released the dragons will meteorites from 50 kilometers away. 50 kilometers, according to ancient terms, was 100 miles. Killing the enemy's head from 100 miles away. What kind of terrifying power was this? Of course, the greater the power, the greater the consumption. At this moment, Immerse felt that his dragons will had almost been consumed by more than half. He took out a bottle of dragons will recovery liquid from his personal storage and drank it. After about 5 minutes, the consumed dragons will had been recovered by more than half. He looked up in the direction of Tianmen Mountain again. He saw that the corpse aura there was much fainter than before. However, there was still a lot of corpse aura. Immerse knew that this was because there were still many human-headed spiders in the spider cave. He immediately tapped his feet lightly. Only a 100-meter-tall dragon's shadow was left on the spot. He had disappeared on the spot. If it wasn't for the thick fog, this dragon's shadow would definitely shock everyone in the base. In front of the ruins of Tianmen Mountain, Immerse's figure instantly appeared. He looked at the spider caves on the stairway to heaven. Although there were no more human-headed spiders climbing up, there should still be a lot of them inside. Immerse's dragon will entered the spider cave. The spider cave was about 2 to 3 kilometers below the ground. There were hundreds and thousands of tunnels below, extending in all directions. In these tunnels, there were also thousands of human-headed spiders. Immerse frowned. Where did this passageway lead to? How many human-headed spiders were there? A moment later, he shook his head and decided not to dwell on it any longer. He used his dragon sense to detonate all the human-headed spiders. In an instant, he gained another 50 million evolution points. After that, he used the dragon wool meteorite to collapse the cave entrance. Only then did he speak in his mind. System, sign in. The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face sign in successful. Sign in location, spider's lair, sign in reward, blood spider silk, this was a skill. Immerse looked at the skill description in his mind. Crimson spider silk, activates the virus in the body to shoot out crimson spider silk. The spider silk can be hard or soft. When it is hard, it can pierce through metal and stone. When it is soft, it can stick to all things. The crimson spider silk is extremely tough. Those below mutated zombies cannot cut through the crimson spider silk. When Immerse saw this, his mind moved slightly. A crimson spider silk as thick as a finger instantly condensed from his body and shot out along his fingertip. Ding, with a soft sound, it was nailed into a huge rock. It could pierce through metal and stone. As expected. Moreover, Immerse could also feel that this crimson spider silk seemed to be able to change into many shapes while being flexible. It had endless uses. However, this had to be slowly studied in the future. He put away the crimson spider silk. On his back, the crimson wings spread out. His wings flapped slightly, and his body instantly rose into the air. Bang! A sonic boom came from behind him. His speed instantly increased greatly. He flew forward at a speed of 1,000 meters per second. However, he did not return to base C10. Instead, he went to base C1. The matter here had been resolved. He also left 6 level 8 psychokinesis here. It was enough to deal with attacks below mutated zombies. Next, he would return to base C1. He would leave behind a large number of level 8 psychokinesis here. This way, even if he left base C1 in the future, he would not have to worry about infected creatures attacking the base. At the same time, he would leave behind a large number of level 8 psychokinesis. Not only would he leave behind a large number of spies, but the evolution points of the infected creatures they killed would also be credited to him. It was definitely a profitable business with little capital. More than half an hour after Immerse left Tianmen Mountain, all the human-headed spiders in base C10 had been cleaned up. The sun in the sky gradually showed its face. The thick fog was slowly dispelled. At this moment, everyone's attention was on the 6 level 8 psychokinesis. These 6 people were just ordinary people in the past. Some did dirty and tiring work every day. Some of them had become second nature to sneak around. There was also a child who was only in his teens. Who would have thought that when the base was in danger, they were the ones who saved the base? Moreover, the strength of these 6 people was actually stronger than anyone in the base. Amidst the shock, someone finally spoke. Old he, I really didn't expect you to hide so well. Little brat, little hero, you are actually a psychokinesis. Amidst everyone's shock and confusion, the 6 people were invited to the chief's office. The chief asked someone to pour a glass of water for the 6 of them. He said, I should thank you on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of people in the base. Everyone was a little uneasy. After all, they were just ordinary people in the past. Suddenly facing the chief of the base, they were really at a loss. On the other hand, the child wiped his snot with his sleeve and said, Chief, if you really want to thank me, give me steamed buns. I want a lot of steamed buns. The chief laughed and said, Of course, you have contributed greatly to the base. Naturally, I will let you eat until you are full. He immediately ordered someone to bring food. Then he asked everyone, I just don't understand one thing. The 6 of you are all level 8 psychokinesis. This is really puzzling. Can you explain? Speaking of this, the chief seemed to be afraid that the 6 people would misunderstand. He said, Of course, if this involves secrets, pretend that I didn't ask. The 6 people looked at each other. The mysterious powerhouse had only activated their psychokinesis. But before he left, he didn't say whether they could reveal his information to others. What if they told him and the mysterious powerhouse was unhappy? But what if they didn't tell him and the mysterious powerhouse was unhappy? Their leaders will allow them to contact the mysterious powerhouse. But the mysterious powerhouse had said that they shouldn't bother him if it wasn't important. This should be considered an unimportant matter. But who knew? What if this was something important to the mysterious powerhouse? Everyone couldn't make up their minds. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.